Chapter 134. Who's there? The sudden explosion made it hard for anyone to react. The one who reacted the fastest was the head of the prison. This head of the prison had been in this line of work for 20 years. Under the deterrence of the dynasty's laws, he had been safe and sound for so many years. He had never encountered such a situation where someone forced their way in and ransacked the dungeon. He did not expect to encounter it today. Even when it happened in front of him, he still could not react. He did not know what was going on in front of him. The entrance was filled with dust. The head of the prison shouted, "Get out!" Suddenly, a sharp arrow pierced through the dust cloud. Shio! The sharp arrow immediately pierced through the prison head's heart. The powerful force nailed the prison head's body to the wall. Prison head. When the guards saw this scene, they immediately cried out in alarm. The strongest jailer had been killed just like that, and they immediately panicked. Before the dust had even settled, a figure could be seen walking out of the dust cloud. The figure took a few steps and arrived in front of the prison cell. "Hey, you!" The prison guard wanted to stop Li Zongjio, but he saw a group of people rushing in. Their long swords fell and cut these people in half. Blood splattered everywhere. When this person was cut in half, Li Gui's eyes did not waver at all. There was only an unchanging determination. Hey, what's going on? Where did this kid come from? How dare he break into the prison? How dare he offend the laws of the Shengyan dynasty? Tang Yuan saw Li Zongjio walking down the stairs. At first glance, he was just a child. What was there to be afraid of? You guys go and capture this kid. Send him to the Lord Guardian. Such a huge commotion naturally attracted the attention of the Shen family. When Shen Xinxiao saw the young man walking down, he was pleasantly surprised at first. However, when he took a closer look, he found it hard to believe. However, Shen Xinxiao quickly confirmed that this was his son. Zongjio. Li Zongjio walked down with a murderous aura. Originally, he was prepared to go on a killing spree. These unruly people who had a close relationship with him actually dared to lay their hands on the close relatives of the evil lord, Li Zongjio, and even threw his mother into the dungeon. Such arrogant behavior had thoroughly enraged Li Zongjio. When Li Zongjio found out about this, no one in the defender's residence would survive. However, when he heard his mother calling out to him, the murderous aura on Li Zongjio's body instantly vanished. This long-awaited call had been heard for a full 3,000 years. Now, he had heard of it again. It was the most beautiful sound in the world. The child wants to raise, but the parents are no longer around. This was probably the greatest pain and regret in the mortal world. In his previous life, even though Li Zongjio had become the unparalleled evil lord and enjoyed the respect of the world, Li Zongjio had never been happy. He had never felt truly happy. Even his heart had long turned to stone. After 3,000 years, he had returned to his youth. Such an unbelievable thing had happened to him. It also made Li Zongjio feel like he was in a dream. "Mother," Li Zongjio shouted. This word had been sealed in Li Zongjio's mouth for more than 3,000 years. To Li Zongjio, this touching sound was something that he would never forget. Since he was reborn, he had to grasp everything in front of him. Who is it? Shen Chuanxiu could not react. Xinxiao's son. Father, this is Zongjio, Li Zongjio. Shen Xinxiao was a little emotional. He thought that before he died, he would not be able to see the person he loved and his child. He did not care about Li Tianqing. They had seen each other for so long, but not being able to see his son was the greatest pain and regret in Shen Xinxiao's heart. As a mother, this pain would be so deep. However, Shen Xinxiao did not show it. Just now, he was silently praying in his heart that he would be able to see Li Zongjio again. Could it be that the heavens had spoken directly? Li Zongjio. "Oh, it's my silly grandson from Luoxia City." Shen Chuanxiu remembered and quickly said. If Shen Xinxiao's IQ was online at this time, he would definitely talk back. However, Shen Chuanxiu's words were pardonable. Shen Chuanxiu actually liked this little grandson very much. However, because of an incident, he became this silly grandson. Li Zongjiu's incident was well known in the entire Luoxia city. The incident where he used the poison as an elixir. In the end, the victim was Shen Chuanxiu. That was why Shen Chuanxiu came up with this idea. However, Shen Chuanxiu did not blame Li Zongjiu. On the contrary, he was very fond of this bold grandson of his. It was supposed to be a very warm reunion scene, but now, it was blocked by the iron fence. Therefore, the moment Li Zongjiu saw it, his anger rose directly. So it's that bastard from Luoxia City. Sister Shen, you are so self-deprecating, it makes me very sad. Look at this kid, he looks like a bull's head and a horse's face. It's really ugly. Tang Yuan said repeatedly. She was extremely sarcastic towards Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu did not pay attention to Tang Yuan. Instead, he went directly to the fence and punched. With a loud bang, the fence in front of him was shattered. This domineering power was obvious at a glance. Even Tang Yuan's sarcastic words could not help but stop at this moment. Mother, grandfather, you have suffered. Li Zongjiu felt extremely sorry in his heart. If he had come earlier, he wouldn't have had to suffer so much. What guardian residence? If he dared to take a step into the Shen family, he would break his arms and legs. He would enter vertically and leave horizontally. Mother, it's okay. Quick, let your men take grandfather and leave first. The battle outside ended very quickly. Li Gui and the others were also covered in blood. They directly ignored Tang Yuan and the others and released all the members of the Shen family. Don't worry. Today, with me here, no one can hurt the Shen family. Li Zongjiu said. Just as these words were spoken, a wave of laughter that sounded like pigs being slaughtered erupted from outside. Ahahaha, this is too funny. Shen Xinxiao, your son is not only an ugly monster, but also a retard. No one can hurt the Shen family. Ugly child, please go out and find out what the Shen family's situation is now. They have already been sentenced to death by the dynasty's laws. Tang Yuan laughed loudly. Although the Shen family members were released, no one dared to touch Tang Yuan. This was because the four people beside Tang Yuan were also very famous. They had once worked together to kill a great bandit hiding in Guanxi town and became famous after that battle. Although the Shens were all experienced hunters, they were still far from enough to deal with these experts who could hunt down and kill bandits. After all, they were just ordinary hunters. The only ones who had some standard and some yuan qi were Shen Xinxiao and Shen Xinxiao's elder brother, Shen Nanxiao. One had to admit that this name was given quite casually. When Tang Yuan said such insulting words to Li Zongjiu, Li Gui was already prepared to make a move. Only Li Gui and 3 guards were sent into the dungeon. The rest of the people were stationed at the periphery to attract the enemy's firepower. Ha! The 4 black-clothed men immediately took a step forward and shielded Tang Yuan behind them. They were in a confrontation with Li Gui and the others. Li Gui and the others did not make a move. Shen Xinxiao wanted to curse back, but he was stopped by Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu turned around and walked towards Tang Yuan. Everyone looked at Li Zongjiu's actions. Do you know what it means to live a life worse than death? Li Zongjiu looked at Tang Yuan. He said very seriously. Chapter 135. No matter what, Tang Yuan was still the young master of the Tang family, the number 1 family in town. What sort of situation had he not seen before? He was able to toy with countless women in the town, he was able to make the bandits make way for him, he was able to make the people in the prison open the door for him, and he was even able to drink and chat merrily with the son of the town guard. In fact, there was nothing in Guanxi town that Tang Yuan couldn't do. And now, in front of his 4 subordinates, he was actually threatened by a teenage child. How could Tang Yuan tolerate this? Immediately, Tang Yuan angrily pushed away the 4 guards in front of him. "You brat!" Tang Yuan wanted to rush up and slap Li Zongjiu. However, Li Zongjiu directly stepped forward and grabbed Tang Yuan's hair. Pa! Tang Yuan fell to the ground. Li Zongjiu's sudden attack was so fast that the guards didn't even have time to react. They saw Li Zongjiu finish his attack. "What are you doing?" With an angry roar, one of them wanted to snatch Tang Yuan back. After all, this was their duty. However, Li Gui and the others had already made their move. Although the Li family guards were seriously injured, their combat experience had increased by a significant amount. Their bloodthirstiness had also made these people feel a deep sense of dread. Li Zongjiu directly grabbed Tang Yuan's hair and dragged him out. Li Gui and the other Li family's guards blocked the 4 black-clothed guards and were still fighting among them. The scene was a chaotic scene. Shen Xinxiao led the Shen family's people and quickly followed Li Zongjiu's footsteps. During this process, Tang Yuan could only watch helplessly as the 4 guards she had brought with her fell to the ground one after another. Hiss! "Let me go, let me go." He seemed to have realized something. Tang Yuan woke up. His men had been killed by Li Zongjiu. Who else could save him? Not many people knew that he had secretly come to the town guard's residence tonight. The only people who knew were already killed by the Li family's guards. These people even dared to kill the guards of the town guard's residence. If they killed him, it would only be one more life. Amidst the chaos, Tang Yuan had already understood her situation. Under such circumstances, there was no longer any hope. Why did the situation become like this? At this moment, Tang Yuan also wondered why he had done such a stupid thing and said such a stupid thing. Li Zongjiu dragged Tang Yuan all the way to a flagpole. As an institution under the dynasty, there would always be a flagpole with the dynasty's holy flame flag. Li Zongjiu pulled the flagpole out. When Tang Yuan saw that Li Zongjiu had let go of her to fiddle with the flagpole, she scrambled to run away. Murder, murder. After running for a distance, Tang Yuan saw that Li Zongjiu did not chase after him. He heaved a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to curse Li Zongjiu, he saw the flagpole in Li Zongjiu's hand stabbing towards him. What? Puchi. The tip of the bamboo pole was sharp. It easily pierced through Tang Yuan's stomach and came out from the back of his neck. It was dyed red by the Shengyan dynasty's flag. Ah! Ouch ouch ouch! At this moment, Tang Yuan felt excruciating pain all over her body. Even the slightest breath she took was excruciatingly painful. The flagpole pierced through Tang Yuan's body, but it did not hurt any of his organs. In other words, even if the bamboo pole was pulled away, it would only be a superficial wound. He was in a trance. Tang Yuan looked at the things in front of her gradually getting farther and farther away from her. Suddenly, she appeared at the top of Guanxi town. Looking down from the top of Guanxi town, she saw that she was strung up by the flagpole and directly lifted into the sky. She was at least 10 meters above the ground. Fuck. Fuck. What are you trying to do? Put me down. Li Zongjiu raised his head and looked at his masterpiece. Stringing people up was a method that Li Zongjiu often used. The flagpole pierced through the body and did not hurt the internal organs. The bleeding rate was also relatively slow. At present, he could at least last 2 to 3 days before he died. Of course, during this process, there was no lack of elixirs. Li Zongjiu flicked his finger. Suddenly, with a whoosh, some elixir powder turned into a ray of light and smashed into Tang Yuan's body. It exploded, and the elixir powder spread out. For ordinary people, it had no effect. However, for some ants and other animals that liked sweets, this was something that had a fatal attraction. To them, this thing was simply a treasure bestowed by the heavens. The smell was enough to spread to the range of 100 meters. On the other hand, all the ants within 100 meters would gather here. It directly invaded Tang Yuan's wound. "What are you trying to do? What did you sprinkle on me?" While he was shouting, Li Zongjiu threw another stone and hit one of Tang Yuan's acupoints. Since then, she had lost control of her body below her neck. Even her fingers could not move. Tang Yuan fell into a state of extreme panic when she felt such a sensation on her body. "Enjoy it." Li Zongjiu looked at Tang Yuan, who was hanging high on the flagpole. Then, he turned and left. Those ants would crawl along the flagpole from one side of the wound to the other side of the wound. This feeling of being pierced by thousands of ants, anyone would choose to kneel down and beg for mercy. If he had the ability to fight, he believed that the wound on his body would definitely fester. Even if an ant burrowed into his body, the unbearable itch would be magnified dozens or even hundreds of times. "Brat, put me down quickly. Otherwise, I will not forgive you." Tang Yuan roared. Now, only his throat could make a sound, but Li Zongjiu turned a deaf ear. Instead, he came in front of a group of Shen family members who were still in a state of shock and disbelief. While Shen Chuanxiu was still in the prison, he had already made up his mind. He had to get rid of all these people. The guardian residents had gone too far. If they continued to compromise, their Shen family would be finished. Tonight, they were almost finished. Hence, they had to show their strength and retaliate. That was the only way. Only then could he ensure that his family would not decline. Gu Man led a few guards from the Li family to search the protector's estate. However, apart from capturing a few guards who were hiding, they didn't find the Lord Protector's figure. Immediately, he hurried to Li Zongjiu's side to report. "Stay in the defender's residence and wait for the defender to return." Chapter 136. Li Zongjiu said. It had to be said that this was an extremely bold and crazy idea. The people of the Shen family had escaped with great difficulty, and now there was no place for them to go in Guanxi town. The only way was to leave Guanxi town as soon as possible. However, if that was the case, the Shen family would also decline. After all, the Shen family was based in Guanxi town. If the Shen family were to move, and not just move, but flee, they would leave Guanxi town. Coupled with the court's arrest warrant, all of them would become fugitives. No one could bear such a blow. That's right. I want to know what Lu Jianzhong is capable of. Damn that fatty. Lu Jianzhong. That was the name of the garrison. Of course, Lu Jianzhong was young, but he came to Guanxi town early to make a fortune. Although it was a small place, Lu Jianzhong's identity was not simple. To be able to take up the position of a guard at the age of 30, if he wasn't very capable, then he must have a very strong background. Putting aside Lu Jianzhong's background, his position as a garrison guard was an official of the Saint Flame Empire. If anything were to happen to him, he would have the support of the Saint Flame Empire. In this small Guanxi town, Lu Jianzhong could do whatever he wanted. As for the so-called supervision department, he just needed to bribe them and there would be no problem. "Father, don't worry. The most important thing is to get out of here." Shen Xinqiao thought for a while. The Li family had only sent a dozen or so guards, and in addition to the previous battle, they had already suffered great losses. Their current strength might not be able to defeat the garrison. Moreover, there were many experts hiding around Lu Jianzhong. Considering the overall situation, Shen Xinqiao knew that they would be trapped if they stayed to confront them. They would not be able to get out of Guanxi town. Sister is right. If we don't leave, we will all die here. Shen Nanxiao said. Even if everyone left this place together, the survival rate might not be very high. Maybe most of them would die on the way. But once they entered the mountain, it would be the Shin's hunter's world. As for what happened after that, he would think about it later. Whether it was reputation or not, he had to survive first. You youngsters should leave. I'm old and can't walk anymore, Shen Chuanqiu said. His old eyes were filled with endless depth as he looked at the grown-up children around him. Li Zongjiu had also come. As a member of the grandson generation, Li Zongjiu's performance this time had also surprised Shen Chuanqiu. Shen Chuanqiu couldn't believe it. Zongjiu, you are still young. The world is dangerous. Quickly take your people and leave. Your guards are still young. Don't sacrifice them in vain. Shen Chuanqiu wanted to persuade Li Zongjiu and the others to leave first. Li Zongjiu shook his head. Grandpa, Mom, don't worry. As long as I, Li Zongjiu, am here, that puny Guanxi town won't be able to do anything to us. Not only will we not have to leave, I'll take back everything we've lost. Take back what was lost. This was what old master Shen Chuanqiu wanted. However, in this world, without strength, connections, and background, how could you possibly get back the things that were stolen from you? Those inspirational articles and stories were naturally used to deceive people. There were only a few people who could really turn the tide in their lives. Zongjiu, is what you said true? Shen Nanxiao couldn't believe his eyes. This little nephew of his could actually say something so contagious. Shen Xinxiao, who was beside him, was also carefully sizing up Li Zongjiu. He was extremely amazed by the changes in Li Zongjiu's body. What exactly happened to Li Zongjiu? Could it be that the Snow Elixir sect had the ability to transform people? They could actually train the introverted Li Zongjiu to become like this. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that Li Zongjiu was his son. At this moment, Li Gui tactfully came to Shen Xinxiao's side and whispered a few words in his ear. When he heard what Li Gui said, his eyes widened and his mouth dropped open in shock. The more he looked at Li Zongjiu, the more he couldn't believe it. Most of the people from the Shen family were also arranged to rest in the rooms of the guardian residence. The injured guards of the Li family were also bandaged. Fortunately, they had brought a lot of elixirs with them. After taking the elixirs, their injuries were healed. It was already the latter half of the night. The entire guardian residence was already under Li Zongjiu's control. It didn't have to be a lot of people. Most of the armed forces of the defenders' residence had already been wiped out when they attacked. Li Zongjiu didn't show any mercy when he made a move. The black wind was biting cold. Tang Yuan, who was hanging high on the flagpole, was howling in pain. He wanted to scream in the direction of his family, but he didn't have the strength to do so. At this moment, Tang Yuan also felt that there was something wriggling in his body. When these things entered his body, he felt an unbearable itch. He wanted to stretch out his hands to scratch his wounds, but he realized that his hands couldn't move at all. Oh my God, let me die. Kill me, this kind of torture was something that even those with strong willpower couldn't withstand. Moreover, this was a rich second generation who only knew how to eat, drink and play. His fate was obvious. However, when Tang Yuan cried for help from above, the people from the Shen family who were about to go to sleep could only feel good in their hearts. Such a guy, let him continue to suffer. Even if Tang Yuan wanted to kill himself, it would be difficult. Everyone is in a small building on the east side, and they are protected by 6 guards. Li Gui reported to Li Zongjiu. Some of the unimportant people were naturally gathered together. The entire building was also protected. Don't underestimate the defensive power of these 6 guards. Even if hundreds of people attacked at the same time, these 6 guards would be able to make sufficient preparations. As for Li Zongjiu and the others, they were in the main hall of the guardian mansion. Li Zongjiu was hungry, so he asked the people in the guardian residence to cook some dishes and serve them. He really treated the guardian residence as his own home. He was even more free than his own home. This feeling of substitution was too fast. Shen Nanxiao and the rest didn't expect that one day they would be living in the Guardian residence. Moreover, they were living in the main hall of the Guardian residence from the prison. At this moment, Willow Lane, Bright Moon Hotel. A large number of soldiers had cleared the streets. Every house was closed, and some people were directly chased out. As the Deputy General of the City Guards, he had a long sword. He was also equipped with a long sword. He bent over and jogged all the way to the most luxurious private room in the Bright Moon restaurant and gently knocked on the door. The outside had already been cleaned up completely. However, in this room, there was still singing and dancing. Son of a bitch, who is knocking on the door? Get in here. A fiery voice came from inside the room. Hearing this, the Deputy General's heart trembled. Although the consequences were severe, the current situation was even more serious. Lord Liu, something bad has happened. Chapter 137. His upper body was naked and he was wearing a pair of ordinary pajama pants. Lu Jianzhong sat in front of the table and listened to the kneeling deputy as he recounted the entire incident. Lu Jianzhong's eyebrows shot up as he listened to the story. Who would have thought that someone would be so arrogant as to kill his military governor on the streets? These thieves are actually so arrogant. Sir Lu, the Tang family will send 100 martial masters to join forces with the city guards to take them down. An old man in his 60s standing beside Lu Jianzhong said with a flushed face. There were also many lipstick marks on his skinny body. If one were to look at him like this, it would be unseemly. However, Lu Jianzhong had yet to take out his clothes. How could Tang Jiushan put them on? It was not strange for Tang Jiushan to be here. The Tang family had colluded with the defender's residence. Today was the day that the entire Shen family would be thrown into jail. Tang Jiushan was naturally happy. He would be even happier if all the members of the Shen family were dead. He had originally thought that this matter would be over. However, it seemed like there were still other waves. Tang Jiushan, who was burning with anxiety, wanted to get rid of these people as soon as possible. Shut up. You. Go and gather the people from Mang Mountain immediately. Enter the city secretly. Give them 4 hours. Although Lu Jianzhong was greedy, he was not stupid. Such a valiant force had suddenly appeared. The young man in the lead had actually dealt with Ma Yuanshan with a single move. How could such a person be underestimated? Since they were going to be enemies with these people, they would have to be fully prepared. You want to let them enter the city? The deputy was obviously a little surprised. He had never expected that they would actually let these people enter the city. This was already a very dangerous matter. It was difficult to weigh the pros and cons of using these extremely dangerous people to deal with a dangerous situation. What are you waiting for? Lu Jianzhong shouted fiercely. He had never been kind to his subordinates. Furthermore, this was Lu Jianzhong's territory. This was Guanxi town. I didn't expect that there would be so many capable people in my small Guanxi town. Interesting. Interesting. Let me meet you. Lu Jianzhong sneered. He put on his clothes and walked out of the door of the private room. When Lu Jianzhong walked out, another figure appeared behind him. Like a ghost, the figure appeared behind Lu Jianzhong without making a sound. He didn't say anything, nor did he do anything else. He just walked slowly like that. Tang Jiushan, come with me. Don't bring anyone else. I want to see if these people have the guts of a bear or a leopard. Lu Jianzhong waved his hand, telling the Tang clan's old man to follow him. All of you stay here. Guanxi town is my turf. Of my territory is my turf. Do you think that I want to harm you? After Lu Jianzhong ordered Tang Jiushan's guards to retreat, the guards looked at each other in dismay. Who knows what Lu Jianzhong's intention is? If Lu Jianzhong is unhappy, it is not impossible for him to make the Tang family suffer the same fate as the Shen family. Looking at Lu Jianzhong's angry eyes, Tang Jiushan was furious. How could Tang Jiushan not know? He could only apologize to Lu Jianzhong again and again. He was still smiling at Lu Jianzhong. Then, he waved his guards to retreat. Lord Lu, what are you talking about? Let's go. The Shen family seems to be rebelling. Is that so? Then they can't escape the death penalty. Let's go. Just like that, the large group of city guards escorted Lu Jianzhong and Tang Jiushan as they headed towards the Guardian Mansion. The guards of the Tang family who were forced to stay behind were also at a loss. Their duty was to protect the old man, but now the old man had been forced to leave by someone else. What should they do? Let's go. Let's follow them. If anything happens, we'll act according to the circumstances. Go. Big brother, I heard that they were going to Mount Mang to invite someone. What is it? Don't ask if you don't know. This night in Guanxi town was destined to be turbulent. A large number of armored soldiers swept through the streets like a torrent of steel. In addition to the initial 500 soldiers, the rest of the garrison forces were mobilized from other places. A total of 800 armored soldiers were here. Is there something floating on the flag? Lu Jianzhong raised his hand and the troops behind him stopped. Something floating. It should be some rubbish wrapped around it. Tang Jiushan was old and could no longer see the thing in the distance. Shoot that thing down. Lu Jianzhong said directly. He was afraid that there would be an ambush. In addition, it was in the middle of the night. He had to shoot that thing down to ensure that nothing would go wrong. The one who was in charge of the troops here was Lu Jianzhong's butler, also known as the lackey. Archers, get ready. Shoot. Lai Fu, who was wearing a blue butler uniform, gave the order. Suddenly, a series of arrows whizzed out. Swoosh. 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 Hundreds of arrows were shot directly at that thing like a dense rain of arrows. Good shot. As expected of the city guard's archers. Every shot is accurate. Tang Jiushan applauded when he saw that. He flattered Lu Jianzhong in front of him and hoped that Lu Jianzhong would not make things difficult for him. Now, he still wanted to build a good relationship with Lu Jianzhong. Lu Jianzhong glanced at Tang Jiushan beside him. The reason why he cooperated with Tang Jiushan was to bring down the Shen family. Firstly, it was to prove his strength. Secondly, the Tang family wasn't a force to be reckoned with. Comparatively speaking, the Tang family was easier to control. Therefore, Lu Jianzhong chose to cooperate with the Tang family because the Tang family posed no threat to him. However, after the rain of arrows, the thing on the flag did not move. Instead, because the arrows were stuck on it, the flagpole fell directly towards them. Boom! The flagpole fell 50 meters in front of them. Go, take that thing down and have a look. He seemed to think that he had won the first battle. At least, he defeated the enemy and dealt a heavy blow to them. However, when the soldiers quickly ran to the front and dragged the thing on the ground to Lu Jianzhong, Tang Jiushan's smile suddenly froze on the spot when he saw this scene. The person in front of him was shot to pieces. Even if his parents were in front of him, they would definitely not recognize him. However, Tang Jiushan recognized him at a glance. The person who was shot into a sieve was really his precious son. It was unknown what was going on these days. Most people had children when they were old. Usually, those who were successful in their careers usually had children when they were old. Therefore, they took extra care of their children. Tang Yuan treasured him to death. Everything was done according to his wishes. In Guanxi town, there was almost no one who could stop Tang Yuan. Even if something happened, the Tang family would take care of it from behind. Now, Tang Yuan was originally not dead, but now he was shot to such a state. His fate made people sigh. This. Sir. This, what kind of thing is this? Do you know it? Lu Jianzhong went up and gave it a kick. When Lu Jianzhong kicked the fat lump of rotten meat, a piece of meat was directly kicked away. Immediately, a group of pitch-black ants crawled out from the stomach and scattered in all directions. This gave Lu Jianzhong a fright. Fuck, what are these things? Tang Jiushan saw this scene and did not dare to admit it. He repeatedly said, I don't know, I don't know. Chapter 138. Throw this pile of rotten flesh out and feed it to the dogs. Lu Jianzhong said directly. His subordinates immediately stepped forward and dragged Tang Yuan's corpse away before throwing it into the garbage. Tang Jiushan was extremely anxious. However, Tang Yuan was already dead. If they couldn't get through this storm tonight, the Tang family would probably be finished. In comparison, Tang Jiushan liked Tang Yuan more. He couldn't allow anything to happen to Tang Yuan. Otherwise, he would be in deep trouble. Therefore, he didn't dare admit that he knew Tang Yuan in front of Lu Jianzhong. In fact, Lu Jianzhong really didn't know Tang Yuan. Furthermore, Lu Jianzhong couldn't be bothered to look at Tang Yuan's disgusting appearance after being shot. How dare they attack the defender's residence? They are openly defying the dynasty. Charge in. When they arrived at the defender's residence, they saw the two guards lying on the ground. They had been left behind by Li Zongjiu and the others when they had attacked. Boom! Boom! The door was smashed open. However, there wasn't the slightest sound in the defender's residence. Instead, the long passageway that led to the meeting hall was filled with corpses on both sides of the passageway. These were all the guards of the defender's residence. They had all lost their lives. The blood on the ground gathered and flowed onto the floor. In the eyes of ordinary people, such a horrifying and bloody scene was enough to shock them to the core. Lu Jianzhong realized that this matter wasn't simple. However, when he thought about the fact that he was the defender's residence of Guanxi town and had the backing of an expert from his family, he felt that there was nothing to worry about. Not to mention Guanxi town, even within 100 miles of Guanxi town, there wouldn't be anyone more powerful than the person behind him. Now that his defender's residence had been invaded, how could such a thing happen so casually? Lu Jianzhong's reputation would be ruined in Guanxi town in the future. How bold of you to wait for me here. Send a group of people to search the dungeon and see if there are any fish that escaped the net. Also, with so many people, it's impossible for them to be gathered in the meeting hall. Find these people and bring them out. At the same time, seal off all the main roads of the House of Guardians. When the people from Mang Mountain arrive, we'll kill our way in. There's no need to say anything. Lu Jianzhong acted swiftly and decisively. His subordinates immediately split into 3 groups. In the end, there were only a dozen people who followed Lu Jianzhong into the meeting hall. Tang Jiushan, that shadow-like bodyguard, and some of Lu Jianzhong's personal bodyguards, were more trustworthy. The dozen or so people walked into the meeting hall. Originally, they thought that they would see a scene of 2 armies facing off against each other after entering the house. However, before they even entered the house, they could already smell a fragrance. When they really walked in, they were immediately shocked by the scene before their eyes. These people actually, he was actually in the House of Guardians. Swaggering while eating hot pot. The boiling aroma filled the air above the eaves and lingered in the entire house. More than a dozen people surrounded the hot pot, eating heartily. There were dozens of corpses lying outside, but the people inside were actually eating hot pot so happily. When they saw Lu Jianzhong and the rest enter, everyone couldn't help but put down their chopsticks. Shen Chuanxiu's gaze was like a pair of eagle claws, directly grabbing Tang Jiushan's body. Tang Jiushan was the person who caused the Shen family to fall into such a miserable state. He was the main culprit. This old fart was actually so insidious. Today, he had almost died. When enemies meet, their eyes would be exceptionally red. Tang Jiushan, you're living quite comfortably as a lackey. Shen Chuanxiu said in a deep voice. The rest of the people also put down their bowls and chopsticks, wiping their mouths. Shen Chuanxiu, as a fugitive, you killed the guards of the House of Guardians. I'm afraid you'll be in prison for the rest of your life. Tang Jiushan also snorted coldly. He was not afraid of Shen Chuanxiu at all. Both of them were originally at the same level. Now that Shen Chuanxiu had become a prisoner, their positions had changed drastically. Tang Jiushan directly fired at Shen Chuanxiu. Tang Jiushan, do you know that escaping from prison is a crime punishable by death? Lu Jianzhong stood up with his hands behind his back. Looking at the faces of the Shen family in front of him, most of them were very familiar. However, Lu Jianzhong dared to pat his chest and say that he had never seen this young man before. The aura of the young man in front of him was extremely unfamiliar. Even with Lu Jianzhong's strength, there was no way for him to determine Li Zongjiu's strength. This meant that Li Zongjiu either had no Yuan Qi cultivation or was a hidden expert. If that was the case, Lu Jianzhong had to be careful when dealing with Li Zongjiu. However, at such a young age, even if he had any ability, it would only be within a certain range. He might not be able to cause any waves. You're the House of Guardians. Li Zongjiu said in front of everyone. Then, he wiped off the oil stains on his hands. He casually moved a chair to the front and sat down with a swagger. He looked at Lu Jianzhong in front of him as if Lu Jianzhong was the prisoner and Li Zongjiu's status was higher. Interesting, you actually dare to act ruthlessly in front of me. Lu Jianzhong's small eyes narrowed as he looked at Li Zongjiu in front of him. Soon, someone moved a chair for Lu Jianzhong to sit down. The distance between the two of them was less than 10 meters. You should be from Wuxia City's Li family, right? You're not afraid at such a young age. However, even if your Wuxia City's Li family came here today, the outcome would be the same. All of you would become wanted criminals. Lu Jianzhong suddenly shouted in a stern voice. As soon as these words came out, the Shen family behind him became agitated. Why are we wanted? We're innocent, Li Zongjiu waved his hand, indicating for the people behind him to quiet down. Shen Xinxiao looked at his son sitting in front of him. At this moment, he felt as if he was being protected. It was as if the area behind Li Zongjiu was absolutely safe and no one could hurt them. When this feeling appeared, it made Shen Xinxiao's heart tremble slightly. His son had grown up. Although he didn't know what happened to Li Zongjiu, Li Gui had briefly explained the situation. Shen Xinxiao knew that his son was now able to shoulder the responsibility and was no longer a child. You're his housekeeper, right? Li Zongjiu pointed at the person beside Lu Jianzhong. This person had been nodding and bowing to Lu Jianzhong ever since he came in. He was also the one who moved the chair for Lu Jianzhong just now. When he was called out by Li Zongjiu, he was a little surprised. Why was he involved in the fight between these big shots? From now on, you'll be the garrison of Guanxi town. When Li Zongjiu saw that he didn't deny it, he directly said. Directly appoint the garrison. Chapter 139. Not only did Li Zongjiu appoint the town guard without authorization, but he also did it in front of the current town guard. Most importantly, Li Zongjiu's current status was that of a prison breaker. Such a crime was punishable by death. Lu Jianzhong found it hilarious that such a death row criminal was giving orders in front of him as though he was passing judgment on the world. He had seen many interesting things in his long tenure as town guard, but this was the first time he saw someone as self-righteous as Li Zongjiu. Tang Jiushan, who was standing beside Li Zongjiu, laughed heartily when he heard what Li Zongjiu said. He took the opportunity to mock Li Zongjiu. In his opinion, Li Zongjiu was too ignorant. Shen Chuanxiu, where did you find him? No matter how useless your Shen family is, there's no need to find a child to make a scene. Ha! Tang Jiushan said. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he saw Li Zongjiu looking at him. Tang Jiushan couldn't help but feel a sense of guilt. So it's a fool. Huh, take them down. Lu Jianzhong sneered. His fat body was about to take a step back when he suddenly saw Li Zongjiu's figure appear in front of him. What? Lu Jianzhong, who had just stood up, was so frightened that he fell backward. Humph. Seeing that Li Zongjiu had actually made a move, the black-robed elder behind Lu Jianzhong immediately let out a cold snort. This cold snort was like 1,000 layers of turbulent waves that directly swept towards Li Zongjiu and the others. Boom! The surrounding air seemed to have turned into thousands of sharp swords in an instant, piercing towards Shen Chuanxiu and the others. The first to bear the brunt was Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu did not release the slightest bit of spiritual power. He just condensed his own mental strength into a white chess piece. It flew straight ahead. Boom! There seemed to be a divine might gathering on the white chess piece as it spread out in all directions in front of him. Boom! Power surged. Lu Jianzhong's stool was unable to withstand the pressure of the void and shattered with a loud bang. The next moment, Lu Jianzhong fell to the ground. However, the most shocked person was the black-robed old man standing behind him. In the blink of an eye, Li Zongjiu's mental energy swept over. Boom! The black-robed old man couldn't help but take 2 steps back. However, on the surface, he appeared to be unharmed. However, the black-robed old man's mysteriousness and strength were obvious to all. However, Li Zongjiu had been forced to take 2 steps back. Furthermore, it seemed like he had done nothing, yet he was able to force Li Zongjiu back. This scene made everyone even more surprised by Li Zongjiu. Shen Chuanxiu was shocked. Tang Jiushan, who was standing at the side, immediately shut his mouth. Could it be that these people could not defeat Li Zongjiu? If they really couldn't defeat Li Zongjiu, then wouldn't the matter of him mocking Li Zongjiu just now be part of Li Zongjiu's scheme? However, it was a pity that he didn't bring his guards. Tang Jiushan could only bluff on the surface, but in reality, he didn't have any confidence at all. If they really fought, then Tang Jiushan probably couldn't even defeat Shen Chuanxiu. After all, in this small village, some rich people didn't even bother to cultivate. Most of the time, they just let their subordinates do the work. If I have the money to hire people to fight, then why should I work so hard to cultivate? Tang Jiushan couldn't help but take a few steps to the side. I didn't expect you to be a mental strength master. I have tortured and killed countless geniuses, but I have never killed a mental strength master before. The black-robed old man took 2 steps back, then let out a shrill laugh. Under such circumstances, the black-robed old man's gaze turned sharp. He had tortured and killed countless geniuses. Could it be that this old man had some weird fetish? Just listening to him gave people a terrifying feeling. Li Zongjiu couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. How could he compare the number of people killed with the great evil lord? I'm afraid that all the people you've met in your life wouldn't be enough to kill Li Zongjiu. You look like you want to eat hot pot. I'll put your head in the hot pot later and let you eat to your heart's content. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. You have a sharp tongue. Die. Black tornado poison palm. The old man let out a low roar. Following the surge of yuan power, the robe on his body directly melted away. As the old man circulated his yuan energy, he made people feel a thunderous black wind rush into their hearts. Boom! The old man's palms turned pitch black, and even the air felt like it was filled with poisonous gas. He slammed his palm towards Li Zongjiu. Not good, that's the black poison old man. Shen Chuanxiu had been staring at the old man all this time. The old man had been in Guanxi town for a long time, but because he rarely showed himself, his identity had never been discovered. However, Shen Chuanxiu and the others were extremely curious about the black poison old man's identity. Now that he saw the old man attack, he was shocked to reveal the old man's identity. The Black Poison Old Man? Isn't that the leader of the 5 Poison Gang? Shen Nanxiao exclaimed in surprise. The 5 Poison Gang could be said to have committed all kinds of evil, and had even captured living people to refine poison. This caused the surrounding area to be extremely wary of the 5 Poison Gang. It was a good thing that the dynasty came forward and joined forces with the defenders of several towns to suppress the 5 Poison Gang. There was even a power from a third-grade city that attacked together and destroyed the 5 Poison Gang. However, the leader of the 5 Poison Gang, the Black Poison Old Man, had actually appeared in front of them today. This meant that there was something fishy about the incident that day. In order to eliminate the 5 Poison Gang, it was said that they had applied for a lot of funds from the dynasty. Now that the funds had been approved, the 5 Poison Gang was still active in the area. That bastard, he actually exposed his identity. Lu Jianzhong was lying on the ground. When he saw that the Black Poison Old Man had exposed his identity, he cursed in his heart. However, it didn't matter. If the Black Poison Old Man attacked, only death would await these people. Since they wouldn't be able to live, there was nothing to worry about. Today, he would go on a killing spree in the Guardian Mansion. The Black Poison Whirlwind Palm struck out. Li Zongjiu could indeed feel the terrifying power emanating from the Black Poison Palm. This person's strength had already reached the Yuan general level. However, if one were to talk about using poison, the Black Poison Old Man had truly found the wrong opponent. Using poison? Li Zongjiu immediately chuckled. Before his smile had even faded, Li Zongjiu had already raised his palm, directly colliding with the Black Poison Whirlwind Palm. Boom! Pa! As the two palms collided, wind and clouds rose as auras crazily erupted between the two. The Black Poison Old Man stared at Li Zongjiu in shock. If an ordinary person's palm came into contact with his poison, that person would have long turned into a pool of blood. However, Li Zongjiu's palm did not even cause the slightest ripple when it collided with his. Moreover, the Black Poison Old Man could clearly sense that his power had no way of invading Li Zongjiu's body. It was as if there was an iron wall blocking his way. This prevented the Black Poison Old Man's power from invading Li Zongjiu's body. Let's see how long you can last. The Black Poison Old Man's voice was stern. A cold light rose from the corners of Li Zongjiu's mouth. Take a look at yourself first. As his voice faded, the Yuan power within the Black Poison Old Man's body frantically gushed towards Li Zongjiu's body. This was not the result of the Black Poison Old Man taking the initiative to attack. Instead, it was a result of Li Zongjiu forcibly absorbing the Black Poison Old Man's power. Chapter 140. The 5 Poison Yuan Power in my body, not good. Old Man Black Poison had initially thought that Li Zongjiu was simply courting death. Given his 5 Poison Yuan power, even an ordinary Yuan general would find it difficult to resist if it were to stick to his outer body. If it were to invade his body, even an expert several levels higher than himself would not be able to withstand it. They would even have the opportunity to kill him. The 5 Poison Yuan power in Old Man Black Poison's body swiftly poured into Li Zongjiu's body at this moment. Old Man Black Poison gradually discovered that there seemed to be an endless space within Li Zongjiu's body that was rapidly absorbing his energy, causing his body to feel incomparably empty. Old Man Black Poison gradually began to panic. The Yuan power in his body was no longer under his control. The two were deadlocked in place as their palms met. From an outsider's point of view, it seemed to be a contest of Yuan power. Well done. Destroy him and I'll give you 500,000 gold coins. Lu Jianzhong was actually cheering from behind. When Old Man Black Poison heard this, he wanted nothing more than to turn around and slap Lu Jianzhong's face. Can't you see that I'm going all out and am at a disadvantage? What are you planning to do by saying, well done now? How is this possible? Old Man Black Poison's heart was shaken, but he could not panic at this moment. He needed to calm down in order to deal with this troublesome opponent before him. Hence, Old Man Black Poison was desperately circulating his Yuan Sutra as he pondered. Fine. Since you want to devour my energy, I'll fight you to the end. In Old Man Black Poison's opinion, Li Zongjiu must have relied on his powerful mental energy or some secret weapon to absorb his poison. However, once the poison accumulated to a certain level, Li Zongjiu would definitely not be able to hold on. When that time came, he would naturally collapse. When he thought of this, Old Man Black Poison's heart naturally hardened. He retrieved a porcelain bottle from his bosom and poured something into his mouth. What he ate was the 5 poisons pill that Old Man Black Poison had specially refined for his poison arts. If he were to consume a single pill, he would be able to unleash his poison arts within a minute. Boom! Old Man Black Poison's aura suddenly erupted. It was as if a huge vortex had engulfed Li Zongjiu's body. This terrifying scene was simply shocking to ordinary people. My little grandson will be fine, right? When Shen Chunqiu saw this, he started to worry. The other party was the leader of the 5 poison gang, Old Man Black Poison. These people were all vicious and merciless. They had at least hundreds of lives on their backs. Every single one of them had committed a heinous crime. This damned sinner had to be dealt with. Who knew that he would appear in front of them and even fight with his grandson? Nothing will happen. I have faith in Zongjiu. At this moment, Shen Xinxiao's heart was filled with worry. It would be a lie if he said that he wasn't worried. His fingernails were almost embedded into his palms as he clenched his fists tightly. He stared fixedly at Li Zongjiu's condition. If this arrogant and ugly old man in front of him dared to hit her precious son, Shen Xinxiao would risk her life to save Li Zongjiu. At this moment, Shen Xinxiao could only cheer for Li Zongjiu in his heart. Li Zongjiu felt the other party's aura suddenly surge. At this moment, he also fixed his gaze and gradually became serious. This was because the aura produced by the other party at this moment was enough to make Li Zongjiu retreat. White Dragon Origin Spirit. Li Zongjiu summoned the White Dragon Origin Spirit. It attached itself to his body in a state of nothingness to help Li Zongjiu. His mental strength also instantly increased. The other party clearly felt that Li Zongjiu's mental strength had become stronger again. He immediately let out a low roar. I'll fight it out with you. The Black Poison old man kept trying to retract his Yuan power. Li Zongjiu's devouring had already touched the Black Poison old man's origin. If this continued, the Black Poison old man would probably collapse. If you want your power, then I'll return it all to you. Li Zongjiu sneered. The Black Poison old man didn't understand at first, but in the next moment, Li Zongjiu crazily rushed all the power into the Black Poison old man's body. The power that had been absorbed previously was all controlled by Li Zongjiu's mental strength. Now, Li Zongjiu directly spat out this power again. Boom! A terrifying and turbulent power burst out. It directly whizzed forward. The Black Poison old man's hands were originally somewhat red, but when Li Zongjiu transferred the power back into the Black Poison old man's body, it directly caused a terrifying change in the Black Poison old man's body. The blood in the Black Poison old man's body seemed to be rapidly draining away. Not good. The Black Poison old man was instantly overwhelmed by fear and hurriedly withdrew his hands. But when the Black Poison old man withdrew his hands and released them, the terrifying power of the 5 poisons had already exploded his acupuncture points. In this kind of forceful competition of Yuan power, if one party wanted to forcefully withdraw, they would have to bear the effects of the exploding acupuncture points. The Black Poison old man's speed was relatively fast. When the power rushed to his hands, it had already been completely withdrawn. Therefore, the power of the 5 poisons only exploded on the surface of the Black Poison old man's body. If it had rushed into his body, it would have directly opened a hole in his chest. One could imagine how terrifying it would have been. Bang! Bang! 2 of his arms were blown off. The black poison old man retreated several steps, instantly kneeling on the ground. Looking at his 2 broken arms, he was dumbfounded. He didn't dare to believe that with his cultivation, there would be a day when he would leave his broken arms here. How could this be? Who exactly was this young man? How could he possess such power? Even the black poison old man had never expected this. What was even more unexpected was, Lu Jianzhong and the rest. In the competition between the black poison old man and Li Zongjiu, it was naturally clear who would win. It couldn't be that the black poison old man had blown off his arms, but Li Zongjiu had actually suffered extremely serious internal injuries. This, everyone present was in an uproar. The black poison old man opened his eyes and turned to flee, but Li Zongjiu directly rushed over with his stool. Pa! The stool smashed the black poison old man to the ground, causing him to feel dizzy. A mouthful of old blood spurted out. The black poison old man had never imagined that there would be a day when he would be smashed to the ground by someone with a stool. This was simply unimaginable. At this moment, both of his arms were already broken. After receiving such a heavy blow, if he didn't flee now, his old life would probably end here. Just as he was about to get up and flee, another stool came crashing down. Bang! 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 In front of everyone, Li Zongjiu had used the chair to end Old Man Black Poison's life. Old Man Black Poison's body had been smashed to smithereens. Even if his own son came, he might not be able to recognize him. Phew! This old man's bones are really tough. After so long, he still hasn't called for help. Li Zongjiu seemed to be wiping away his sweat. When the others heard Li Zongjiu's words, they all raised their middle fingers in their hearts. The other party had already fainted, how could he call for help? You also want to die for him, right? Li Zongjiu pointed at Tang Jiushan and said. Tang Jiushan was instantly stunned. Chapter 141. Dying for him, how could such a thing happen? Tang Jiushan's son had just been killed by this guy. Although he cursed in his heart and wanted to strangle Lu Jianzhong to death, he had to put on a smile on his face. However, Lu Jianzhong was a garrison guard after all. He was an official appointed by the dynasty. If he offended him rashly, he would definitely end up in a very miserable state. At least in Guanxi town, he had to curry favor with Lu Jianzhong. You actually killed him. What do you want to do? Lu Jianzhong looked at Li Zongjiu in front of him. This child was so young, but when he attacked, he was so vicious and merciless. Almost every move was fatal. Lu Jianzhong was also very afraid of such methods. He had been a guardian for so long, what kind of people had he not seen? What kind of ruthless people had he not come into contact with? However, it was the first time that he had seen someone as young as Li Zongjiu who was so vicious in his attacks. Therefore, Lu Jianzhong was almost scared out of his wits by Li Zongjiu's move. Don't worry, I won't kill you. Go and find a jar, the bigger the better. Li Zongjiu pointed at the housekeeper, Lai Fu, and said. Lai Fu was a little confused. Why did he bring a jar over at such a critical moment? To make salted vegetables. Lu Jianzhong was still standing. Although he was a little tempted and wanted the position of garrison guard very much, his rationality told him that it was impossible. Therefore, he still stood firmly on Lu Jianzhong's side. What did you say? I advise you to surrender quickly. Otherwise, when the army of the garrison guard arrives, you will die. Lai Fu roared at Li Zongjiu. Calculating the time, the garrison guards that were sent out earlier should have found the other members of the Shen family. Why was there no movement until now? Sir, it's not good. The garrison guards have all escaped. They are too powerful. A captain rushed in and shouted loudly when he saw Lu Jianzhong. With Gu Man and Li Gui around, it was more than enough to deal with these few hundred people. After all, these few hundred people were not elite troops that had received training. They were just a group of hooligans. Therefore, with Gu Man and Li Gui working together, in addition to the few Li family guards behind them, they were able to kill these people and make them flee. And most importantly, they had only killed about 20 people. These people ran away in the blink of an eye. This made Li Gui and the others very puzzled. Even if they looked more powerful and fierce, after all, there were only a dozen of them. There were 400 to 500 of them, and only 20 of them died, and all of them escaped. How could such a thing happen? On the other hand, the guards who had escaped felt like 10,000 alpacas were galloping in their hearts. You still have the nerve to be confused? If you want to kill people, then kill them properly. Why did you have to divide them into 5 groups? First, it was 4 slashes that severed the limbs, and the last slash was to sever the head. Everyone died in the same way. Once they were taken down, the Li family's guards would finish each other off. That was why these people ran away. Who would dare to fight with such a person? Normally, they would bully some commoners and collect some protection fees. Now that they had encountered such a situation, who would dare to rush forward? Everyone turned around and ran away. After the first one, there would be a second and a third, and then one after another. In less than 10 minutes, all of them had run away. This captain was quite loyal. He even knew to come and report. Mainly because this captain was quite smart. He thought that if he ran away directly, he would definitely be held accountable. However, if he wanted to continue, he had to stay in a safe place. What kind of place was the safest? Of course, it was the safest place around the Guardian. However, after rushing in, he realized that the surrounding atmosphere was somewhat strange. Why hadn't these people taken down the rebels? Why was there a person lying on the ground? The ground was so dirty. Why weren't they getting up? However, looking at this person's clothes, he vaguely felt that it was somewhat familiar. Fuck, isn't this person the Guardian's personal bodyguard? The one who can directly turn people into a pool of blood. Why is he already down? This captain's inner thoughts were very complicated. When Lu Jianzhong heard this, he angrily slapped him across the face. Fuck you, they ran away. Why didn't you run away? Why did you have to come back and report? Lu Jianzhong's slap directly made the captain a little dizzy. Speaking of which, this captain had some relationship with Lu Jianzhong. This captain's distant cousin was Lu Jianzhong's 14th aunt. But now, this slap directly made the captain's head congested. Shen Chuanxiu and the others breathed a sigh of relief. If these people were all killed and ran away, then the other clansmen would be safe. Otherwise, if the clansmen fell into their hands, this matter would be very troublesome. The situation would be very unfavorable for them. This Li Tianqing is not a good person. He doesn't have any ability. But this Li family's bodyguard is a group of elites. Shen Chuanxiu said. Among so many people present, only Shen Chuanxiu could say this about Li Tianqing. In any case, Li Tianqing was now the head of Wuxia City's Li family. His identity was not simple. But no matter how powerful Li Tianqing was, when he saw Shen Chuanxiu, he had to obediently call him father-in-law. Before Li Zongjiu could say anything, a huge movement came from outside. It seemed like hundreds of people were running quickly. Sir, the people of Mang Mountain are here. A roar came from outside. A large group of people dressed in strange clothes and holding weapons violently pushed away the people in front of them. Get out of my way. Get out of my way. Who are you? How dare you block my way? Many of the bodyguards did not have time to dodge and were directly pushed away. A one-eyed man walked in boldly. There were also some people dressed in strange clothes beside him, escorting him. From the looks of it, he was enjoying himself quite a bit. When the gloomy Lu Jianzhong heard that the people of Mang Mountain were here, the smile on his face suddenly bloomed like a flower. He looked at Li Zhongjiu with a sneer. You can fight very well, but you met someone who doesn't care about his life. Let's see how long you can be arrogant. Lu Jianzhong's face immediately changed and shouted at Li Zhongjiu. The person who walked in was a one-eyed man. When Lu Jianzhong saw the one-eyed man, he could not help but be stunned. Why are you here? Where's your boss? Lu Jianzhong could not help but ask. He looked at the people around him and found that they were not familiar with those people. So he was surprised. What's going on? Could it be that this one-eyed man was directly promoted after plotting a rebellion? Thinking of this, Lu Jianzhong's heart also sucked in a breath of cold air. This one-eyed third brother was also a person who didn't care about his own life. Most importantly, after so many years of cooperation, there might be some kind of weakness that could be used against Lu Jianzhong. If the one-eyed third brother got hold of the key, Lu Jianzhong would be in trouble. This one-eyed man only had strength, but it was impossible for him to have any wisdom. He was also known as a rash person. Hey, boss is a bit unlucky. This morning, he was killed by a kid. Don't you think it's bad luck? The one-eyed man waved his hand and said. But it's also good. This guy was killed, so I'll be promoted. Otherwise, I really won't be able to be promoted. Thinking back to the scene this morning, Chiu Feng was supposed to go out for a mission. But this one-eyed man was in a hurry and missed the mission. It was precisely because he didn't catch up that the one-eyed third brother was able to keep his life. He remembered how shocked he was when he saw this scene from afar. Despite being so far away, he was able to kill the boss with just one shot. That was the boss who was wearing armor. He did not even have time to make a move and the boss was directly killed. He did not even have the strength to fight back. It was enough to show how terrifying the person who killed him was. And then, something even more terrifying happened. The few hundred of them had actually been completely annihilated by the dozen or so guards. Until now, these people still had not recovered. How could these people not care about their lives? Thinking about it, they felt scared. At that time, one-eyed third brother had already made up his mind to not chase after his boss when he saw his boss being killed. However, he still remembered the clothes of the guard and the appearance of the young man. This was to remind himself in the future that if he ever saw this person, he must stay as far away as possible from him in the future. Otherwise, his end would be miserable. Oh right, let me tell you something. You have to be careful these days. If you meet a 17 or 18-year-old kid who looks handsome, smiles with a devilish charm, and has a gaze as sharp as a knife, you have to be careful. This guy can really kill without batting an eyelid. As for Nuonuo, his gaze is just like that. The one-eyed man pointed at Li Zhongjiu in front of him. Li Zhongjiu had a faint smile on his face. When he saw Li Zhongjiu's appearance, the one-eyed man's gaze suddenly froze. Chapter 142. One-eyed third brother repeatedly judged. The young man in front of him was clearly the person he saw this morning on the slope of Mount Mang. This young man had the same indifferent expression and seemed to be in control of the situation around him. There was no worry or fear at all. Even in the face of the huge number of autumn wind troops on Mount Mang, he was still calm and composed. No matter what, since your boss is dead, I will cooperate with you. In the future, I will leave everything to you. Guanxi Town will provide you with firearms. The share will be the same as before. But before that, you have to help me solve the problem in front of me. Lu Jianzhong took a deep breath. He did not see the panic and fear in the eyes of one-eyed third brother. Lu Jianzhong pulled up his pants and shouted a few times, only to find that the one-eyed third brother didn't move. Lu Jianzhong suddenly became angry. Could it be that the one-eyed third brother wanted to increase his commission? This person was really insatiably greedy. However, As long as he solved the problem of Li Zongjio, other things could be discussed slowly. Okay. You win. The share will be changed from 80% to 70%. You will have 10% more. Lu Jianzhong said in a deep voice. Even at this point, the one-eyed third brother still didn't make any move. Lu Jianzhong suddenly turned around angrily. How much more do you want, Pa? One-eyed third brother directly slapped him. In front of so many people, in front of the Deputy General of the Guard Army, he directly slapped Guanxi Town Guard Mansion Lu Jianzhong. This loud slap was enough to wake Lu Jianzhong up. This one-eyed third brother was clearly trying to rebel. Damn you, you want to drag me down with you? I don't even know you. Hee, this little brother, I have only seen him a few times. I don't even know his name. If you have any problems, you can solve them first. We will leave first. One-eyed third brother nodded and bowed to Li Zongjio. This sudden change in attitude immediately startled the extremely nervous Shen Chunxiu and the rest. Shen Chunxiu lived in Guanxi Town, so he naturally knew about the Mang Mountains bandits and the Guanxi Town's guard mansion. Even some of the dirty things were done by the bandits of Guanxi Town and Mang Mountain. Sometimes, Guanxi Town would directly sell some information to the Mang Mountain bandits, and the loot would be split evenly. Furthermore, the Guanxi Town Guard residents would often sell military equipment to the bandits of Mount Mang. There was a lot of cooperation between them. Guanxi Town's guardian residence was actually a black-hearted guy. These two were originally in cahoots with each other. How could they betray each other now? Just a few seconds ago, they thought they were dead for sure. Looking at their attitude, it seemed like they were very afraid of Li Zongjio. What had Li Zongjio experienced on his way here that made them so afraid of him? One-eyed third brother, are you crazy? Lu Jianzhong couldn't believe that one-eyed third brother actually dared to hit him. I'm crazy, you motherfucker. One-eyed third brother took out his whip and gave Lu Jianzhong a vicious beating. Lu Jianzhong kept rolling on the ground, screaming in pain. Boss, look, I'm really not familiar with them. We rarely come here. Today, we're just passing by for a meal. Go ahead. One-eyed third brother said as he stepped back, wanting to leave. However, he saw a group of guards standing at the door. The person leading them was Li Gui. Li Gui had a long saber at his waist, and the guards behind him were like tree stumps on the ground, sneering at the people in front of them. Behind Li Gui and the others, there were even people from Mang Mountain. However, they were able to recognize that they had arrived at a bandit's lair. Therefore, they all hid far away. In this way, there were only one-eyed third brother, a dozen bandits, and the deputy general of the Guardian Army and some guards in the room. Then, there were the people from the Shen family. One-eyed third brother saw the situation and knew that today's matter would not be settled peacefully. He immediately turned around and stared at Li Zongjio. In the end, the one-eyed third brother's eyes hardened. He clenched his teeth, pushed aside the crowd, and arrived in front of Li Zongjio. With a plop sound, he knelt down before Li Zongjio. I, one-eyed third brother, will listen to your orders without any hesitation. One-eyed third brother actually pledged his loyalty to Li Zongjio. What are you still standing there for? Get on your knees. One-eyed third brother roared at his subordinates behind him. These bandits had seen Li Zongjio's strength before. Now that one-eyed third brother had admitted his defeat, they would not dare to act recklessly. When the time came, not only would Li Zongjio kill them, but one-eyed third brother would also not let them go. Therefore, the bandits brought by one-eyed third brother all knelt down. Greetings, boss. Greetings, boss. Li Zongjio saw this scene and could not help but laugh in his heart. Although the one-eyed third brother looked like a fool, he was actually thinking faster than anyone else. Li Zongjio was able to kill their leader with a single strike. It was definitely not luck. If he could kill their leader with luck, he would not have waited until now. Therefore, if a fight really broke out, One-Eyed Third Brother would definitely die. It was not easy for him to become the boss. One-Eyed Third Brother did not want to lose his life so quickly. Your reaction is very fast. Very good. Li Zongjiu originally wanted to kill all of them. But after thinking about it, the situation was different from the past. In the past, he was alone and could kill all of them. But now, he had to consider his family. Not only the Li family, but also the Shen family. He had to consider them. As for the rest, Li Zongjiu did not care so much. Tonight, a group of bandits robbed the Guardian mansion, killed the Guardian, stole the treasure and escaped. What do you think? Li Zongjiu asked One-Eyed Third Brother. The One-Eyed Third Brother was very smart. When he heard Lu Jianzhong's words, he immediately pulled out a dagger from his waist and stabbed it into Lu Jianzhong's stomach. So what if he was the Guardian? They were bandits. What did they not dare to do? They did not dare to throw away their lives. Therefore, when he attacked, he was very vicious and merciless, stabbing Lu Jianzhong several times. Lu Jianzhong suddenly vomited blood and shouted loudly. Ah! You dare to kill me? I am from North Puff City, Lu family. One-Eyed Third Brother, you dare to kill me? Lu Jianzhong suddenly roared. He even announced his family's name. I don't care which city you are from. But it was too late for Lu Jianzhong. Even if he reported his family name, he could not withstand the threat of death. Moreover, North Puff City was a strange place for One-Eyed Third Brother. Chapter 143. Until his death, Lu Jianzhong kept repeating that he was from the northern Puff City's Lu family. They couldn't kill him and so on. However, when he was about to die, the One-Eyed Third Brother had already poked more than a dozen holes in Lu Jianzhong's stomach. Fresh blood continued to flow out and converged into the cracks on the floor. Boss, should we keep these people alive? The One-Eyed Third Brother looked at the remaining forces in the Guardian residence. None of these people dared to move when they were dealing with Lu Jianzhong. When they heard that they were going to deal with themselves, the Deputy General was so scared that his face turned pale. With his status, he was at most Ma Yuanshan's right-hand man. Ma Yuanshan was already dead. The Guardian residence was also dead. For the sake of the dynasty's honor, they should kill all these people. This was too fake. No one would believe it even if he said it out loud. Therefore, the Deputy General quickly knelt down in front of Li Zongjiu. LLLL my lord, please spare my life. I am the Deputy General, the Deputy Commander, Wang Wenbin. I am willing to listen to my lord's orders, even if I have to die. My lord, I can guarantee that the guards will definitely obey my lord's orders. Wang Wenbin immediately surrendered as well. Li Zongjiu looked at Lai Fu, who was called out previously. Lai Fu immediately knelt down. It was clear that Lai Fu had absolute control over the situation. If he didn't submit, Lai Fu's only outcome would be death. After that, there would still be someone to replace his position. In that case, he might as well do it himself. Who knows, he might even have a chance to make a perfect comeback. This was an opportunity, but also a crisis in hell. Since you have surrendered, I will leave the matters here to you. Li Zongjiu said. As for how to solve it, I don't need to teach you. He looked at Lai Fu and nodded. Don't worry, boss. I know how to deal with these matters. Lai Fu said. Li Zongjiu nodded in satisfaction. Tang Jiushan saw this scene. It was simply a scene of flipping a book faster than flipping a face. When they flipped, there was no surprise at all. And each one was faster than the other. When Tang Jiushan saw this scene, he almost had a heart attack and collapsed just like that. It had only been an hour, but the situation had already undergone such an earth-shaking reversal. Now, so many people stood out and stood on Li Zongjiu's side. This was equivalent to standing on the Shen family's side. Shen Chunqiu, you colluded with the bandits to murder the officials of the dynasty. This is tantamount to rebellion. I'm afraid you've already been convicted. Tang Jiushan knew that he didn't have long to live. There was no need to worry at all. These people would definitely not let him go. What the Tang family had done had almost ruined the Shen family's future. Now that the Shen family was in power, how could they let this matter go so easily? Shen Chunqiu laughed loudly when he heard this. If it was in the past, Shen Chunqiu wouldn't have minded living his life openly. But now, after seeing these people's faces, he had to admit that he had to admit it. Even so, he had to admit that these bastards liked to eat fists. If you treated them gently, it would be very difficult for everyone to get along with each other. After all, in their eyes, if you didn't beat them up, it would mean that you weren't strong enough. You might even be afraid of them. That was why they were so cheap. They had to be beaten up from time to time to let them know what regret was, what pain was. Only then would they learn. Today, the Tang family was the one who made a move. Tomorrow, there might be other families. These battles were endless to begin with. Only real blood and fire could make your enemies wake up and realize that you were not to be trifled with. Hence, Shen Chunqiu walked out with Shen Xinqiao's help. Tang Jiushan, I have never taken you seriously for many years. I have tolerated your provocations. But do you really think that I'm afraid of you? Murdering the officials of the dynasty? So what? Whoever dares to touch the people of the Shen family is going against me, Shen Chunqiu. Even if I have to risk my life, I will make him pay the price. Today, you can forget about leaving. Shen Chunqiu said. In Shen Chunqiu's eyes, Tang Jiushan was already a dead man. Even the Tang family had to be destroyed. At the very least, the Tang family would not be able to recover within 100 years. Shen Chunqiu was able to become the head of the Tang family at his age. He wasn't a simple person. If he was so easy to bully, the Shen family would have been destroyed many times over. However, Shen Chunqiu was already old. He had hidden his edge and no longer showed it. Today, he had to spit out the fangs of the Shen family. Shen Chunqiu, you will die a horrible death. Tang Jiushan pointed at Shen Chunqiu and said. But before he could finish his words, the two fingers that were pointing at Tang Jiushan were cut off by the one-eyed third brother. How dare you disrespect our old master? Chop him up and feed him to the dogs. The one-eyed third brother said. He was born a bandit. Now that he had surrendered, he had to show his determination and confidence. This was a rare opportunity to perform well. My grandfather's 70th birthday is in 3 days. Lai Fu, you will arrange it. Send out the visiting cards. Remember clearly whether you are coming or not. Li Zongjiu said to the newly appointed head of the guardian residence. Lai Fu nodded immediately. Yes. I promise to complete the task. You bandits can escape from the city now. Li Zongjiu said. The one-eyed third brother immediately understood. Then, Wang Wenbin and the one-eyed third brother immediately put on a big show. The guards fought fiercely against the bandits of Mount Mang. In the end, they went through a lot of hardships to drive all the bandits out. However, when they arrived, it was already too late. The guardian Lu Jianzhong was already seriously injured and unconscious. After that, Lai Fu, who temporarily took over the affairs of the guardian residence, was also in charge of all the affairs of the guardian residence in Guanxi town. The people in Guanxi town soon learned that the House of Guardians had been killed. However, the state government, which was one level higher than Guanxi town, did not know what happened in Guanxi town. Guanxi town only needed to hand in the financial and tax affairs regularly. Lai Fu was usually in charge of these handover matters, so it was easy for him to handle. He only needed to announce to the public that the guardian Lu was seriously injured. At least for the next 6 months, there was absolutely no risk. As for after 6 months, he could directly announce the death of the guardian residents. Or, he could let the bandits rob again. There were many ways. The next day, everyone also found Tang Jiushan, the old master of the Tang family, who was tied in a ponytail and dragged to death on the official road. They all angrily condemned the Mount Mang bandits for being cruel and heartless. Chapter 144. The members of the Shen family, who had been through a night of turmoil, once again returned to the Shen family's courtyard, which had been sealed off. After all, it was just a small town. The surrounding land was very cheap, so the Shen family's area was much larger than the Li family's. However, the number of people was much smaller. The Shen family's residence was sealed and the seal was quickly removed. Everything in the family was still there. Obviously, they had not had time to plunder everything. They were worried that something would happen. Anyway, they were in Guanxi town, so there was nothing to worry about. However, Li Zongjiu's arrival stirred up a storm. The House of Guardians had been completely overshadowed. All of this was due to the respect he had earned through his strength and the convenience that came with it. The moment he struck, all of these people had been wiped out. The next day, the Tang family's people were directly arrested by the Guardian's residence. The reason was tax evasion. Anyone could see that this was a very far-fetched reason. It might not even be valid. How much tax could there be in this small Guanxi town for them to steal? Of course, this was just an excuse. The Guardian's residence was here. If they said that there was a problem, then there was naturally a problem. Shen Xinxiao was not worried about the situation in the town. Instead, he was very concerned about Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu must have suffered a lot in the Wuxia pill sect to be able to have today's ability. He pulled Li Zongjiu aside and asked about it. In short, his mood would not calm down so quickly. Li Zongjiu also enjoyed the feeling of being with his mother. In the 3,000 years of his previous life, besides cultivation, he enjoyed the loneliness and emptiness of the world. Therefore, Li Zongjiu cherished it very much. Even if he had to turn the world upside down, he had to protect the Shen family. Li Gui and the others also handed over the congratulatory gifts from the Li family to Shen Nanxiao. When Shen Nanxiao saw so many precious treasures and precious spiritual herbs, he was extremely surprised. When Shen Nanxiao saw the contents of the last box, his eyes widened in disbelief. These are all second-grade elixirs. There were 24 porcelain bottles in the box. In each bottle, there was a second-grade mid-grade elixir. These elixirs were simply the greatest wealth for the small Guanxi town. It was hard to believe that there were so many elixirs. In short, Shen Nanxiao's view of the Li family had changed. Oh, thank you, thank you. Your family head is too polite. We are all family, there's no need to be so polite. Shen Nanxiao said excitedly. Li Gui, on the other hand, smiled indifferently. At first, when he saw so many second-grade pills, he was also shocked. After all, there was only one second-grade alchemist in the entire Li family. It was almost impossible to refine so many medicinal pills. Even if it was refined, it would probably be kept as a treasure. How could it be taken out so casually? But now, it was different. The Li family's backbone had become so strong. The fog snow pill sect's Chang Yao Feng also changed his usual arrogant attitude, as if he wanted to stick his face close to Li family. In fact, he only offered a relatively fair cooperation plan, which directly increased the Li family's harvest by several times. It could be said that this success was too easy. In addition, the Li family's current alchemy hall disciples were also guided by an alchemy master like Wang Jing. Therefore, they knew about the process. Wang Jing's strength was very terrifying. In the future, he would definitely become a sharp arrow in the Li family's alchemy hall. Although his talent was not enough, as long as the method was right, there was still hope for him to become an alchemy master. It could be said that the Li family's future had already stepped into the stage of prosperity. This is a small gift from our family head. Our family head still has things to do. He will be here in a few days. Li Gui said. Although he was calm on the surface, he was very happy in his heart. He felt that his face was shining brightly. Was this what it felt like to be respected by others when one walked out with strength? The injuries of the Li family's guards gradually recovered with the help of elixirs. Even some of the guards who suffered light injuries that did not affect their movements would wake up early in the morning. After which, they would gather together and train. This hard-working spirit was nurtured under Gu Xuanwu's hands. Even when they were out on a mission, they could not relax. As a result, it brought a great impact to the Shen family. Shen Chuanqiu could already tell that the Li family had undergone some changes recently. Just by looking at these people, he could tell that the Li family had changed. In the afternoon, Li Zongjiu sat on a rockery in the Shen family's manor. A power was boiling in his body. This was the power of the 5 poisons that he absorbed from the black poison old man. These 5 poisons directly brought a certain hidden danger to Li Zongjiu, but Li Zongjiu discovered it earlier. However, the danger was not that serious. He just needed to control it a little. However, it also made Li Zongjiu realize something. The current him was not the evil lord of his previous life. Therefore, some ordinary poisons were very likely to remain in his body. For example, the power of the 5 poisons. If Li Zongjiu did not pay attention to it, it was very likely that the power of the 5 poisons would cause fundamental harm to Li Zongjiu. Looks like I need to refine something to increase my body's resistance to poison. It was possible to be immune to poison. However, who knew if this poison was the 101st type? Therefore, Li Zongjiu needed to train his body to increase his resistance to poison. Only then could he ignore or even be immune to these poisons. Just as Li Zongjiu was trying to force the poison out of his body, a voice suddenly rang out. He found that when the poison entered his meridians, the ancient golden tyrannical body art was circulating freely, and it easily refined the power of the 5 poisons. Seeing this scene, Li Zongjiu was shocked. He never thought that the ancient golden tyrannical body art could refine all the poisons. Thus, it could strengthen his body. Li Zongjiu could also clearly feel that his body's strength had increased. He was shocked. This ancient golden tyrannical body art can be stimulated with poison. Using poison to train. To an outsider, this sounded like something only a fool would do. However, Li Zongjiu had seen many in his previous life. Using poison to train the body. Chapter 145. Li Zongjiu, who had this idea, immediately entered the testing phase. Li Zongjiu had long been accustomed to life and death situations. For others, they might hesitate for a long time and not dare to try such a risky thing. However, after learning about this method, Li Zongjiu directly began. It was normal for ordinary people to hesitate, but Li Zongjiu had already seen through life and death and was not afraid of death. Moreover, Li Zongjiu's alchemy skills were enough for him to deal with all kinds of situations and solve these problems one by one. Therefore, Li Zongjiu was not afraid. A stalk of blood poison grass appeared in his hand. Along the way from the Blackwater Forest, Li Zongjiu had obtained quite a number of medicinal ingredients. Some of these medicinal ingredients had healing properties and auxiliary properties. However, within the Blackwater Forest, there were also quite a number of medicinal ingredients that had toxic properties. The blood poison grass was just as its name implied. Only 1 or 2 drops of the blood poison grass's juice was needed to fuse a person's blood into a solid state and directly kill them. It was a terrifying poison. For ordinary people, even if they saw it from afar, they would take a detour and avoid it. Now, Li Zongjiu directly put the blood poison grass into his mouth. This stalk of blood poison grass could produce at least 20 drops of venom. With such a huge amount of venom entering the body, even a Yuan-Shi expert would not be able to resist the blood poison grass and die within an hour. It tastes terrible. Li Zongjiu only felt that his tongue was extremely dry and his mouth was filled with a strange taste. However, the most important thing was that the blood in his body suddenly constricted, as if the venom had frozen his body. The terrifying poison continued to spread into his body. The Yuan power in his body wanted to surge out to extinguish the poison, but Li Zongjiu forcibly suppressed it in his body. Then, he started to circulate the ancient golden body art. Sure enough, the effect was remarkable. Although the venom in his body had fused with his body, under the operation of the ancient tyrant golden body art, it gradually turned into energy and entered Li Zongjiu's body. There weren't many changes on the surface of his body, but Li Zongjiu could already feel it. Next time, if he were to consume the blood poison grass again, he would definitely be able to survive. Other than the fact that it tasted bad, there shouldn't be any other problems. After refining the blood poison grass, Li Zongjiu opened his eyes and felt the changes in his body. Apart from increasing my poison resistance, my physical body's strength and toughness have also increased significantly. That was easy to explain. Li Zongjiu's body would naturally struggle after absorbing the power of these poisons. Through this struggle, Li Zongjiu's body would be able to achieve a certain level of growth. However, this method required him to constantly switch to stronger poisons. If he kept using poisons of this level, the effect would not be great. This kind of cultivation method naturally carried a considerable amount of risk. After all, the toxicity wouldn't allow one to coincidentally increase from 1 to 3. It was very likely that one would have to directly challenge the level from 1 to 5. If one couldn't withstand it, needless to say, one would just have to wait to collect the corpse. Moreover, there might not be a corpse waiting for one to collect it. Li Zongjiu furrowed his brows. He looked in front of him and said indifferently. "Come out, there's no need to hide." Li Zongjiu said. Just as Li Zongjiu finished speaking, a beautiful figure also appeared from behind the rock at the side. She seemed to feel a little embarrassed that her hiding place had been exposed. "Cousin Zongjiu." The girl who appeared said softly. You are Shani." Li Zongjiu thought for a while and said the name of the person in front of him. With Li Zongjiu's memory, it was very difficult for him to call out a few names. After all, so much time had passed. The person who appeared in front of him made Li Zongjiu smile. Shani. She was Shen Nanxiao's youngest daughter. Shen Nanxiao had a total of 3 daughters. The eldest daughter had already married somewhere else, the second daughter was said to have wandered the world, and the third daughter was Shani. She was only 1 year younger than Li Zongjiu. He remembered that when they were young, Li Zongjiu and Shen Yi's relationship was quite good. After all, the two of them were about the same age and had grown up together. "You're looking for me?" Li Zongjiu asked. Shen Yi had been weak since she was young and had a gentle and quiet personality. She didn't have a very active personality, so she must have something to ask of Li Zongjiu. The 15-year-old Shen Yi was already a pretty girl from a humble family. Her long ponytail hung down to her waist. Her white and rosy face had a youthful feeling that belonged to a flower. I want to ask cousin Zongjiu to do me a favor," Shen Yi said. Yesterday, this little girl was still in prison, but today, she was able to come out. This little girl didn't know the specific situation, but she heard that Li Zongjiu's cousin from Luoxia city had come here, but it should be the experts of Li family who helped them, so they were able to solve these problems. Shen Yi also knew that only Li Zongjiu could help her with today's matter. "What's the matter?" Li Zongjiu asked. "My friend, Little Flower, was taken away by a group of bad people. They are from the Park family. I don't dare to go alone, Park family. In this Guanxi town, there were many rich people. In general, it could be considered as three big families. Naturally, the Shen family was one of them. Then there was the Tang family that was arrested. Then there was the Park family. The Shen family's main business was hunting. The skills that were passed down over the years allowed the Shen family to develop in Guanxi town to this extent. The Park family specialized in birds and beasts. However, the market that the Park family targeted was some rare and precious species. After all, rare things were precious. Take me there. I'll help you get it back. Li Zhongjiu stood up and said. Hearing Li Zhongjiu's words, Shen Yi's big watery eyes immediately shone brightly. It was as if she saw hope in the endless darkness. Okay, this way. Shen Yi jumped down the several meters high rockery with a whoosh. As expected of the hunter family, any little girl's skills were very good. Looking at Shen Yi's excited appearance, Li Zhongjiu couldn't help but shake his head. He jumped down from the rockery. He didn't call anyone and just went alone. After all, everyone had their own things to do. Moreover, he was just going to ask for a person. It wasn't a matter of confiscating property or exterminating a family. There was no need to mobilize so many people. Chapter 146. In the Park family of Guanxi town. Although there was a storm in the town these days. But it had nothing to do with the Park family. They just needed to close the door. Whatever happened in the town, they could solve it by themselves. It had nothing to do with the Park family. Speaking of the pitiful Shen family, they had to admit that a few days ago, a little girl from the Shen family caught an incredible item. Today, a young master from an aristocratic family from a second-grade city came to inspect the goods and sell them. If they could make a profit from this, it would be a wonderful thing for the entire Park family. That was because the price was simply too tempting. Thanks to young Master Dalu. If it wasn't for you, we might not have been able to get this item. It would be a real waste if the Shen family got their hands on it. Park Dalu said with a smile. After doing this, the elders of the various clans started to think highly of him. Now, they were all smiling when they saw the Poo continent. If it was in the past, they would have thought that the Poo continent only knew how to eat, drink, and defecate. But I heard this morning that the Shen family was acquitted and Tang Jiushan of the Tang family was killed by the people of Mang Mountain. His death was very tragic. The people of the Tang family were all locked up in the dungeon. The Shen family seems to have gained power. Will they come and make trouble for us? One of the Park clan's elders said. After all, before this, they were all part of the three great families. The three giants were on par with each other. Moreover, the Shen family was not aggressive. So, after a long time, they were not afraid of the Shen family. Because the Shen family's habitual way of dealing with things was to turn big problems into small ones. The head of the Park family, Park Guanyuan, frowned. He looked at the time. What can the Shen family do even if they know about it? Before this incident, they were only on par with us. Do you think they can destroy our Park family? Park Guanyuan said. Seeing that these people were still uneasy, he said again. Alright, don't worry. Do you know who the buyer is this time? Looking at Pu Guanyuan's mysterious gaze, these people couldn't help but look at him, their eyes filled with anticipation. The third young master of the Zheng clan from the second-grade city, Giant Jade Wave City. Zheng Haoran. Now, you know the weight of this. Hearing that the patriarch had finally mentioned this person, the few of them exclaimed loudly. It was simply unbelievable. Even when they heard this name, they couldn't react in time. It's actually the Zheng clan of Cerulean Wave Giant City. That's incredible. That's incredible. If I can form a relationship with the Zheng clan, some people were also very smart and quickly thought of this idea. Blue Wave Giant City. Those that could be called giant cities were those that were in the process of becoming first-class cities. There were only a few first-class cities in the entire Dingquan province. If he succeeded, his status would be completely different. Back then, when he changed his name to this name, he had already expressed his determination. The Jing family was the #1 family in Emerald Wave Giant City. There was no doubt about that. In fact, the people from the Jing family were the most famous and the most powerful people in the area. The entire region was the Jing family's territory. It was just that they didn't care about it for the time being. It was almost impossible for people like them to climb up to such a towering existence. After all, in front of the Jing clan, they were like ants under the feet of a giant. They wouldn't even know when they would be accidentally trampled to death. How could they squat down and talk to you? But now, there was really such an opportunity. As long as this transaction was successful. Then, if they could form a relationship with the Jing clan, casually plucking a strand of hair would be enough to make the Park clan soar. It was simply too exhilarating. It seemed that the opportunity to rise to the top was right in front of them. How could these people not be excited? So, no matter what, this transaction must be well prepared. The most important thing is to leave a good impression in front of them. There's only one chance, it must succeed, said Park Guanyuan. He clenched his fists. What Shen family? He had completely thrown it to the back of his mind. After this day, he would settle the score with the Shen family. Just as the elders were thinking about the future, a voice suddenly rang out. A guard of the Park clan came to report. Someone at the door asked their master to go out. Who is so arrogant that he dares to ask me to welcome him personally? Is it Lu Jianzhong? Park Guanyuan's eyes darkened and his face was full of anger. He was the master of the Park clan. Perhaps he would soar and become the #1 family within 1,000 miles. Who dared to ask him to meet him directly? The guard was quite straightforward. Since he had said so, he would pass on the message. Father, is it that person? Park Dalu quickly reminded him. That person? Hearing his son's reminder, Park Guanyuan suddenly came to his senses. It was indeed possible. Calculating the time, it was not impossible. Yes, yes, yes. You reminded me. Tell me, what does the person look like? The guard thought for a while and said. 17 or 18 years old. Well, he's dressed very simply. There's a cute girl beside him. 17 or 18 years old. Isn't that Jingharen's age? You're courting death. Why didn't you say so earlier? Park Guanyuan stepped forward and kicked the guard away. Then, with a smile on his face, he hurriedly walked towards the door. The few elders of the Park clan behind him also quickly followed to show their respect. Li Zongjiu and Shen Yi stood at the door of the Park clan. If it wasn't for the fact that there was a girl beside him, Li Zongjiu would have directly broken these people's necks and taken them away. It was precisely because of this factor that Li Zongjiu refrained from making a move and tried to make peace. However, Li Zongjiu's tone was not small. Just now, he directly asked the guard to call their master out. Shen Yi looked suspiciously at Li Zongjiu, who was beside her. There was also some admiration and curiosity in her eyes. Just now, Li Zongjiu had said, "Call your family head out." How many youths could have such a heroic spirit? However, Shen Yi was also worried that they would not pay attention to them. Maybe they would directly call a group of guards and directly throw them out. In the Park clan of Guanxi town. Although there was a storm in the town these days. But this had nothing to do with the Park clan. They just needed to close the door. Whatever happened inside, they could solve it by themselves. It had nothing to do with them. However, speaking of the pitiful Shen family, they had to admit that a few days ago, a girl from the Shen family caught an incredible item. Today, a young master from an aristocratic family from a second-grade city came to inspect the goods and sell them. If they could make a profit from this, it would be a wonderful thing for the entire Park family. That was because the price was simply too tempting. It's all thanks to young Master Dalu. If it wasn't for you, we might not be able to get this item. It would be a real waste if this item was caught by the Shin family. Park Dalu said with a smile. After doing this, the elders of the other clans thought highly of him. Now, they were all smiling when they saw Park Dalu. If it was in the past, they would think that Park Dalu only knew how to eat, drink, and defecate. But I heard this morning that the Shin family was acquitted and Tang Jiushan of the Tang clan was killed by the people of Mang Mountain. His death was very tragic. The people of the Tang clan were all locked up in the dungeon. The Shin family seems to have gained power. Will they come and make trouble for us? One of the Park clan's elders said. After all, they were all part of the three great clans before this. The strength of the three great clans was on par with each other. Moreover, the Shin family was not aggressive. So, after a long time, they were not afraid of the Shin family. Because the Shin family's habitual way of dealing with things was to turn big problems into small ones and small ones into nothing. The head of the Park clan, Park Guanyuan, frowned. He looked at the time. What can the Shin family do even if they know about it? Before this incident, their strength was on par with ours. Can they destroy our Park clan? Park Guanyuan said. Seeing that these people were still a little uneasy, he opened his mouth again. Alright, don't worry. Do you know who the buyer is this time? Looking at Pu Guanyuan's mysterious gaze, these people couldn't help but look at him, their eyes filled with anticipation. The third young master of the Zheng family from the second-grade city, Jade Wave Giant City. Zheng Haoren. Now, you know the importance of this. Hearing that the patriarch had finally mentioned this person, the few of them exclaimed loudly. It was simply unbelievable. Even when they heard this name, they couldn't react in time. It's actually the Zheng family of Jade Wave Giant City. This is incredible. 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 If we can have some relationship with the Zheng family. Some people were also very smart and quickly thought of this idea. Jade Wave Giant City. Those who could be called a giant city were those who were trying to become a first-grade city. There were only a few first-grade cities in the entire Dingquan province. If they were successful, their status would be completely different. When they changed their name to this name, they had already shown their determination. And this Zheng family was the #1 clan in Jade Wave Giant City. There was no doubt about this. Chapter 147. Shen Yi's eyes widened and her mouth dropped open. She couldn't be more shocked. These people had a flattering and apologetic smile on their faces. When they arrived in front of Li Zongjiu, they nodded and bowed as if they were looking at their ancestor. This, Shen Yi covered her mouth in shock. Li Zongjiu stood in front of them and watched. He was also a little surprised. Why were these people so agitated and respectful? If that was the case, it was fortunate that he didn't make a move just now. Since he was so polite, then everyone should be more polite with their words. Ahem. Li Zongjiu coughed and cleared his throat. May I ask, are you the third young master of the Zheng family? Pu Guanyuan came in front of Li Zongjiu and bowed. He smiled and asked gently. Although it was a little shabby to see that the young master of the Zheng family was only followed by a maid, this level of existence wasn't something that the people of the Pu family could understand and guess. Perhaps these upper-class people just liked to travel in a simple and relaxed way. Maybe. He didn't dare to make wild guesses. Of course, he couldn't easily offend them. Zheng family? No, I'm Li Zongjiu. This is my cousin, Shen Yi from the Shen family. Li Zongjiu shook his head and said. This time, I'm here, no. Shen family? Little brat from the Shen family. Pu Guanyuan's bent waist instantly straightened. The expression on his face instantly turned into killing intent. He sized up Li Zongjiu and Shen Yi in front of him. Where did this little brat come from? Get lost. I'm in a good mood today, so I won't argue with you. Scram back to where you came from. Hurry up and leave. Pu Guangyuan's face instantly turned cold. He waved his sleeve at Li Zongjiu. What a waste of expression. He even felt like he was being played. If he didn't have the mood to receive the young master of the Jing family and didn't want to see blood, he would have already taught these two brats a lesson. Then he would throw them out. When Li Zongjiu heard the other party's words, his expression instantly darkened. Shen Yi saw that they were not to be trifled with and could not help but tug at the corner of Li Zongjiu's clothes. Why don't we just forget about it? We'll call Daddy over. When Shen Yi saw their ferocious expressions, she was already frightened. Be good and turn around. Li Zongjiu turned Shen Yi around. At the same time, his figure flashed and rushed towards Pu Guangyuan. Hey, stop! Pu Guangyuan stopped and turned around. He wanted to teach Li Zongjiu a lesson again, but he saw a black shadow smashing towards his face. Oh no! Pu Guangyuan had goosebumps all over his body. At this moment, he could feel the stare of death. Bang! There was a loud bang, and the sound seemed to come from inside the body. At the same time, a sharp pain attacked Pu Guangyuan, causing his vision to turn black, and then he fell down. Pa! Li Zongjiu stomped Piao Guanyuan's head into the ground with one foot. It took Pu Guanyuan a while to wake up. He was actually knocked out by someone. How dare you attack the patriarch? You're courting death. Who are you? The surrounding people were instantly stunned. They stared at Li Zongjiu and gritted their teeth. They couldn't wait to capture Li Zongjiu, but when they saw Li Zongjiu's appearance, they knew that Li Zongjiu was not to be trifled with. A few days ago, you guys took away a friend of my little cousin's. Hand him over and I won't kill you. Li Zongjiu looked around and said. He glanced at Pu Guanyuan, who was still struggling to get up. With a flick of his finger, he sent a stream of yuan energy into Pu Guanyuan's arm. Suddenly, there was a pa sound. Blood splattered, and a bloody hole appeared. Pu Guanyuan, who was still unconscious, screamed in pain. Ah! Next, your head. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. Don't mess around. What friend? What person? You better tell us clearly. Otherwise, how can we hand him over to you? That's right. We didn't capture your people. Don't slander us. Hurry up and release our patriarch. Someone roared. He even held a steel fork in his hand. If there was a chance, he would definitely stab Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu sighed softly when he heard this. He counted a total of 7 people around him. Pa! He flicked his finger. A streak of essence force directly blasted Pu Guanyuan's head apart. Bang! Blood splattered. In Li Zongjiu's eyes, it was as if he wasn't stepping on a life, but a weak ant that couldn't be any weaker. Yet, he had taken the life of the head of the Park family so easily. I've already said it. It's you who didn't give me a chance. Hand him over. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. However, these people seemed to still be immersed in the sorrow of their patriarch's death. They couldn't believe that their patriarch died just like that. They were still alive and kicking just a moment ago. Just a moment ago, they were still imagining a beautiful future together. Now, they were already dead. This was simply a disaster that couldn't be avoided. You killed our patriarch. You actually killed our patriarch. It seemed that the death of their patriarch was a huge blow to them. Li Zongjiu shook his head. He sighed softly and then rushed towards the person closest to him. He punched him and knocked him down to the ground. Bang! The person who fell to the ground immediately cursed in his heart. If you don't hand him over, I'll kill another one. Li Zongjiu looked at the people around him and said. Great Elder. Let go of our Great Elder. What are you trying to do? Let go of the Great Elder. We didn't catch anyone from the Shen family. You better be clear. Who are you? Li Zhongjiu sneered when he heard this. He was still stubborn. I'd like to see if your mouth is harder than my finger. As soon as Li Zhongjiu finished speaking, he flicked his fingers again. A terrifying surge of essence energy erupted, directly blasting this Grand Elder's head into smithereens. Bang! Another puddle of blood and brain matter splattered everywhere. In their eyes, this scene was already the second shock. It was truly shocking, to the point that it was difficult to breathe. Such a scene of blood gushing out was something that had only been seen when slaughtering pigs. You're next. Li Zhongjiu pointed at a person. I don't know, I really don't know. I really don't know. It has nothing to do with me. I'll leave the Park family. I'll leave the Park family. Okay. Just when Li Zhongjiu was about to make a move. Suddenly, a shout came from the door. Cousin Zhongjiu, Flowery is not a person. It's a deer. Chapter 148. At this time, Li Zhongjiu had already killed 3 people, including the family head. Originally, Li Zhongjiu had thought that these people's bones were so tough that they dared to ignore death so close at hand. In his heart, he was somewhat impressed. He was only afraid that they had nothing to be afraid of. If they were not afraid of anything, then it was equivalent to them having no weaknesses. Therefore, Li Zhongjiu was still considering whether he should use another method to force them. However, Shen Yi shouted from behind. Li Zhongjiu was also surprised. Why didn't you say that you were not a human? Look at how many people were killed by you. It turned out that they were not strong, but they really didn't know. Their ending was really funny. It was impossible for Li Zhongjiu to admit his mistake. Oh, so it's the elk. Now, hand over the elk. What's its name again? Yes, it's called Little Flower. Li Zhongjiu said indifferently and looked at the people in front of him. The people in the Park family were already scared silly by Li Zhongjiu's actions. He broke into the Park family's house and started a massacre. Prepare the ballista. Fire. Suddenly, a young voice came from the house. Everyone turned around and saw 3 ballistas already lined up and aimed at Li Zhongjiu. The person who gave the order was none other than Pu Dalu. When Pu Dalu saw Shen Yi, he knew that these people were from the Shen family. He wanted to ignore them and hide. This way, his father and the others could say that they didn't know about this matter. But who knew that not long after he left, Pu Dalu saw his father, Pu Guangyuan, being killed by Li Zhongjiu. In anger, Pu Dalu immediately mobilized the ballista in the family. Now that he saw Li Zhongjiu stop, he directly gave the order. If he captured the elk, then he would have no chance to make a meteoric rise in the Pu continent. How would he be able to enter Zheng Haoren's line of sight? Even if he became a dog in front of Zheng Haoren, it would be a qualitative leap for him. It would make his entire life very different. Thinking of this, Pu Dalu must kill Li Zhongjiu. As his voice faded, 3 powerful explosions that were like raging flames could be heard, penetrating through the air as they attacked. Bang! 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 Every sound was like the dull roar of a 1,000-year-old beast. His furious roar caused the surrounding elders of the Park family to become agitated. We should have pushed this thing out long ago. Kill this kid. Even a level 7 Yuan master might not be able to dodge this move. At such a close distance, death is certain. The 3 1-meter-long crossbow bolts were shot directly at Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu's reaction was also very fast. The yuan energy around his body surged out and immediately attached to his body, forming a swirling airflow. Boom! 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 The 3 crossbows directly changed direction in front of Li Zhongjiu. Although it was only a very small arc, the crossbow bolts directly shot in another direction. Bang! 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 One of the arrows hit an elder's head, causing it to explode. It was like a real tofu pudding. One person's heart was pierced. He was still standing in the same place, but there was a bloody hole in his chest. As for the other person, he was shot horizontally by an arrow. Half of his body was directly split diagonally. His intestines, livers, and internal organs splattered on the ground along with his scarlet blood. When this hell-like scene appeared in front of these people, it immediately caused the nearby members of the Park family to retreat in fright. They did not dare to turn around to take a look. Such a scene was simply too shocking for them. This was a living person. What? Seeing this scene, Pu Dalu was shocked. At such a close distance, how could he miss? How could he dodge it so easily? Pu Dalu's heart was immediately filled with anger. Suddenly, a light flashed in front of his eyes, and he saw a figure appear in front of him. This figure was the person he was aiming at just now. What do you want? Pu Dalu suddenly shouted. Li Zongjiu sneered, reached out his hand, and pressed Pu Dalu's head on the crossbow. Boom! With a flip of his hand, he sent the person behind the crossbow flying. Li Zongjiu pulled the bowstring of the crossbow, and Pu Dalu's head was in the path of the bowstring. His hand loosened. Suddenly, the ballista let out a loud explosion. Bang! This sound was louder and louder than any sound Pu Dalu had heard before. After this sound, he couldn't hear anything else. The last thing he saw was himself rolling around. Everything in front of him was a mess. The bowstring was stained with blood when it returned to its original position. Just now, when the bowstring was shot out, it was like a sharp and swift knife. It directly cut Pu Dalu's head into two halves. The part below the nose was still intact, but the head above the nose had already been sent flying. At the cut, one could see the broken bones neatly. In front of these people, this ghastly scene was also filled with great shock. Blurg! The guards of the Park family were already vomiting. Even they couldn't bear such a bloody scene. It was indeed too horrible. In just a few seconds, the scene was covered in blood. The only remaining elder on the scene looked at the scene in front of him in a daze. These people were just imagining a beautiful future together. In the blink of an eye, their stomachs were cut open, their heads exploded, and they were either dead or injured. No, among so many people, no one was injured. They were all killed in one move. It was just that some of them died in a more miserable way. It was hard to accept. This person just barged in and killed people. Wasn't this too much? Wasn't this too arrogant? He didn't even care about the laws of this dynasty. Was this the barbaric era? You're the only one left. Go and bring Flowery out. Otherwise, I'll kill you and go find her myself. Li Zongjiu looked at the last person and said indifferently. When the person heard Li Zongjiu's words, his heart skipped a beat. Flowery, the extremely rare five-colored elk. It was supposed to bring endless glory and wealth to the Park family. But now, the only thing it brought was a calamity before their eyes. The glory and wealth were only in their imagination and expectations. But this destructive disaster was right in front of them. They couldn't get used to it at all. Chapter 149. In the end, the elder panicked and took out the five-colored elk that was locked in the cage. Not only did these people tie the five-colored elk's limbs with chains, but they also tied the elk's limbs. At the same time, they also surrounded the cage with nails. This was because the five-colored elk was very strong. If they didn't trap it, it might break out of the cage. This five-colored elk was half the height of a human. Li Zongjiu sized it up carefully. This elk's body seemed to emit a holy radiance. It was actually a spirit beast that could understand human nature. Such an existence was very rare. There were a total of 5 colors on its body. This was already very rare. Ordinary elks were also very ordinary. Now, this elk had so many colors on its body. According to records, some of the organs on this 5-colored elk's body had the effect of gathering spirit. It was even rarer to obtain this kind of spirit beast than a powerful meta-beast. For example, the black crystal fox that Li Zhongjiu found that day was considered a low-level spirit beast. Firstly, it was relatively small. Secondly, its intelligence was not very high. These spirit beasts all had one thing in common. They were peace-loving. Usually, they didn't fight. However, Li Zhongjiu had heard in his previous life that on this continent, there seemed to be a sect formed by spirit beasts. The spirit beasts in this sect had already cultivated into humans and were peace-loving. Under normal circumstances, their daily task was to eat grass and cultivate. If the bottom line of these spirit beasts was really crossed, they would come out in full force and eliminate all the dangers. This was the scary part about these spirit beasts. It was said that their fighting strength was 10 times more than that of a human elementalist of the same level. Therefore, spirit beasts that were able to cultivate had terrifying strength. This 5-colored elk seemed to have entered the threshold of cultivation. However, it was too young and weak. Now, it was trapped by these people. Otherwise, with their abilities, they wouldn't have been able to trap this 5-colored elk. Little flower. When Shani saw the 5-colored elk, she was pleasantly surprised. She ignored the danger and rushed towards the 5-colored elk. When the 5-colored elk saw Shani, its eyes emitted a bright light. It seemed to be very happy and excited. "What are you waiting for?" Li Zhongjiu said calmly. The elder of the Park family immediately nodded and went forward to open the cage. At the same time, he removed the chains. The 5-colored elk immediately ran towards Shen-Yi excitedly. He came in front of Shen-Yi and kept rubbing his antlers against the girl in front of him. When he looked at Li Zhongjiu, there was a trace of gratitude in his eyes. This elk is quite unusual. Li Zhongjiu was surprised. He didn't expect the 5-colored elk to have such intelligence. Li Zhongjiu was able to tell that the 5-colored elk wasn't ordinary. He didn't rely on his current cultivation, but the experience and eyesight he had accumulated in his previous life. Naturally, he could see the difference in the 5-colored elk at a glance. "Okay, let's go," Li Zhongjiu said. Then, he said to the elder of the Park family, "Sorry to disturb you." After all, they had killed so many people. If Li Zhongjiu knew that this was an elk, then there wouldn't be so many casualties. However, Li Zhongjiu couldn't be blamed for everything. After all, they had killed so many people. Li Zhongjiu wasn't the only one who could be blamed. "Not at all, not at all," the elder of the Park family actually replied. He was thinking that it was so easy to send people away. The appearance of Li Zhongjiu had brought him some benefits. It was impossible for him to have a meteoric rise, but it was possible for him to be in charge of the Park family. After all, he was now in the Park family. Most of the people who were qualified to be the head of the family had died. The heavens were really helping him. This kind of thing didn't always happen. It was too bizarre. "I'm afraid you can't leave today." A voice resounded in the sky above the Park family. When he heard this voice, Li Zhongjiu frowned and pulled Shen-Yi behind him. Then, he saw 2 more figures in front of him. A man and a woman. The man was only 16 or 17 years old, while the woman looked about the same age as the man. However, although the 2 of them weren't wearing dazzling clothes, one could tell at a glance that they weren't simple. "I'm Zheng Haran of the Zheng family of the Emerald Wave Giant City. The 5-colored elk was ordered by me. If you put it down now, I can spare your life." The young man who appeared was about the same age as Li Zhongjiu, but his tone wasn't small. He actually dared to directly ask Li Zhongjiu to leave. This was a very arrogant behavior. Li Zhongjiu smiled. It was really rare to meet such an arrogant person. Just based on the maid beside you, a third-grade origin general. I'm afraid she's not qualified. Li Zhongjiu said indifferently. His words were full of mockery. He was directly mocking the young man. In terms of strength, he wasn't even comparable to the maid beside him. Zheng family, Zheng Haoren. It was Zheng Haoren of the Zheng family. When the surviving elders of the Park family saw Zheng Haoren, they were shocked. After waiting for half a day, the main character had finally arrived. If Zheng Haoren had arrived earlier, they would have been able to sell the elk to Zheng Haoren. Perhaps their Park family wouldn't have lost so many people. Looking at how many people died in such a small place, only a few people died every year. Just the number of people who died in the Park family today was enough to last a year. And this young man named Li Zhongjiu's aura didn't seem to be suppressed by the other party at all. This made people gasp. After all, the two sides grew up in different environments. When ordinary people heard the name of the Zheng family, they would probably be scared out of their wits. How could they still stand here and talk so casually? They were even extremely disdainful. Relying on a woman. Zheng Haoren was instantly angered by Li Zhongjiu's words. This Li Zhongjiu actually dared to insult Zheng Haoren. Who was Zheng Haoren? He was the third son of the Zheng family. Although his cultivation wasn't that amazing, he had already reached the second-grade origin general realm. His martial arts were also extraordinary. In the same age group, how many people could be compared to him? You're courting death. Zheng Haoren growled. The Zheng family of the Emerald Wave Giant City? Li Zhongjiu shook his head. He really didn't have any impression of such a family. In the current of the world of cultivation, one might start to become the mainstay of the region today, but in the next moment, one would be replaced by others. Reality was cruel. No matter how strong one was, there would be a time when one would be replaced. Therefore, the Zheng family's name probably didn't resound for long. Li Zhongjiu probably didn't remember it in his previous life. Unless Li Zhongjiu had personally come into contact with something that was 3,000 years old, it would be very difficult for him to recall something that was 3,000 years old. Don't be fooled, young master. This is a provocation. The maid beside her was smart and quickly stepped forward to stop him. But at this time, Zheng Haoren was like an arrow that had been released from a bow and couldn't be retracted. He struck at Li Zhongjiu with his palm. Chapter 150. This palm seemed to contain the power of a dragon's roar and a tiger's roar. Young Master's roaring tiger and roaring dragon palm has already reached such a level. It can actually produce both a tiger's roar and a dragon's roar at the same time. The maidservant muttered in her heart. She looked at Li Zhongjiu with a trace of coldness in her eyes. In reality, there was no need for young master to take action against these lowly commoners. However, since young master had taken action, she couldn't act on her own accord. Otherwise, wouldn't she be slapping young master's face on top of Li Zhongjiu's foundation? It seemed to be saying, "You're really inferior to me. Hurry up and stop. Let me do it." My roaring tiger and roaring dragon palm is a grade 3 origin skill. A country bumpkin like you probably hasn't even seen a grade 3 origin skill. Let's see how you block it. Indeed, grade 3 origin skills were, to a certain extent, even rarer than grade 3 origin skills. After all, origin skills were the most basic and important. Hence, many people would pay any price to obtain a grade 3 origin skill. However, it was different for a yuan skill. Many people were unable to afford such a price. Hence, they would grit their teeth and learn a grade 2 yuan skill. By gaining a deeper understanding of it, they would occasionally have a chance. It was extremely possible for them to defeat those grade 3 yuan skills that they were not familiar with. For example, the Li family only had one grade 3 origin skill. However, they didn't have a grade 3 origin skill. The price of a grade 3 origin skill was too high. Even within the Wuxia pill sect, it was said that there were only about 3 grade 3 origin skills in the Hidden Scriptures Pavilion. It was already very good to have so many. However, in the Jing family, even such a young man could cultivate a grade 3 origin skill. From the looks of it, he seemed to have been cultivating for quite a long time. To be able to reach such a realm at such a young age was already quite good. Roaring tiger and roaring dragon. I think it's more like snakes, insects, rats, and ants. Li Zongjiu sneered. If such a palm technique could be considered good, then what about those people in his previous life who could shake the heavens with a wave of their hands? In front of Li Zongjiu, Zheng Haoran was like a clown. Azure light sword finger. Li Zongjiu displayed a green light sword finger. This wasn't some exquisite primordial skill. It was even an extremely common tier 1 origin skill. As long as one spent 50 gold coins, one could buy it from an ordinary elemental skill pavilion. Although the person who created this move was very good, this yuan skill was indeed rather useless. Using it at night to swat away flies and mosquitoes would have a miraculous effect. A green light flashed. Li Zongjiu's sword finger suddenly erupted with a green light that was dozens of feet long, directly shattering Zheng Haoran's palm energy. Crash! His aura was overwhelming. This mere dazzling green light actually possessed such power. When the green light entered his eyes, Zheng Haoran immediately felt as though his mind was being pierced by thousands of arrows. Countless sharp thorns pierced his eyes from all directions. In the next second, his eyeballs were about to explode. Not good. The palm energy instantly fell, and Zheng Haoran's figure landed 3 meters in front of Li Zongjiu without any warning. At this position, Zheng Haoran only needed to casually attack to kill Zheng Haoran. This was an extremely dangerous position. Since there was a chance to kill him, Li Zongjiu naturally wouldn't be polite and would let him sit down and drink some tea before leaving. Blood extermination finger. The evil aura in his body surged. Zheng Haoran was still surrounded by the piercing green light and pain. His 2 hands frantically blocked in front of his body. Seeing that this finger filled with evil aura was about to pierce through her family's young master. The maid also let out a low shout. Her small feet stomped on the ground, and instantly, a terrifying aura spread out from the ground. Earth Snake Vine. Her elemental energy transformed into snake vines and drilled into the ground. However, it wasn't heading towards Li Zongjiu or Zheng Haoran. The maid could already tell that if she were to rescue Zheng Haoran now, there would be no chance at all. The only way was to create a diversion and attack way to rescue Zhao. She just had to capture the girl in front of her. The maid's reaction was extremely fast, and at the same time, her eyes were filled with killing intent. This was a real killing move. If Shen Yi was hit, she would definitely die. Li Zongjiu's eyes were filled with coldness. He naturally knew what the maid was thinking. If it was the Li Zongjiu of the past, he might have ignored the maid's attack and continued to achieve his goal. However, now that Li Zongjiu had been reborn, his temperament had changed. The blood extermination finger instantly changed the direction of its attack and landed on the cracks that were continuously spreading in front of him. Boom! The tyrannical power blasted into the ground and directly shattered the surface. The earth snake vine formed by the maid's elemental energy had already been blasted out. However, at the same time, the motionless Zheng Haoran was also pulled back. An earth snake vine wrapped around Zheng Haoran's body and directly pulled him back. The maid's control over her elemental energy had far surpassed Zheng Haoran's. Are you alright? Li Zongjiu glanced at Shen Yi behind him. Just now, Shen Yi was locked in by the other party's aura and was still in shock. After all, the aura of death was not something that could be ignored so easily. Only after hearing Li Zongjiu's words did Shen Yi regain her senses. The 5-colored elk beside her also licked Shen Yi's cheeks. How dare you plot against our family's young master? If our young master is harmed in the slightest, I will make a river of blood flow in your Guanxi town. The maid said coldly, as if she was an angry ghost. If Zheng Haoran was killed by Li Zongjiu just now, she would not have survived. In that case, she would naturally not be able to survive. She would even be destroyed in an extremely cruel and inhumane way. That was what the maid was afraid of. She did not expect that this ordinary Li Zongjiu in front of her would have such strength. A river of blood. I will make the two of you unable to walk out of the Park family's gate today. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. He really wanted to play rough with Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu had never been afraid of anyone. When it came to enmity, he would resolve it on the spot. Otherwise, it would be meaningless to take revenge overnight. He would have to wait for everything. How could he have so much time? Since he had already determined that the other party came with killing intent, Li Zongjiu clearly did not intend to let them leave alive. Wait. Li Zongjiu was also ready to kill the maid, but the maid was also thinking about how to leave. After all, the safety of the young master was the most important thing. If she couldn't save the young master today, then the consequences would be serious. As for the brat from Guanxi town, she could just find a few people to deal with him. She didn't need to do it herself. However, Zheng Haoran, who had sobered up, raised his hand and stopped the maid beside him from fighting with Li Zongjiu. I, Zheng Haoran, am convinced that the azure light sword finger can display such a level of power. I, Zheng Haoran, apologize for offending you earlier. Zheng Haoran apologized. The maidservant beside her was startled. What was going on? Her young master, who was usually as arrogant as a peacock, actually bowed his head and apologized to an ordinary county disciple. Could it be that the young master was stupid? Chapter 151. Li Zongjiu was also stunned. The change was too fast, and he couldn't stop it. What was this kid doing? Was he afraid of death? Zheng Haoran. This name sounded familiar to him. What's your name? Li Zongjiu asked suddenly. This question was a bit hurtful. He had repeated his name so many times, but he didn't hear it. This was indeed a bit embarrassing. However, Zheng Haoran wasn't angry. Instead, he said very seriously. My name is Zheng Haoran. Li Zongjiu also tried hard to recall in his mind. Finally, he found a person who matched this name. Cerulean Wave Giant City. Zheng family's future family head. In the Shengyan dynasty, 100 cities gathering would be held every 10 years. In fact, it was mainly to compete and rank the cities. It was also a way to remind the major cities that they must work hard to cultivate. Otherwise, they would be easily surpassed. It was also to let more people know their status. The most important thing was to let the new force replace the old force. This was a process of alternation, which made everyone feel a sense of crisis. Once promoted, the area would be redistributed. The huge benefits were not something that everyone could bear to part with. About 500 years later, this cerulean wave giant city stood out in this 100 cities gathering. It successfully broke through the second tier and became a first-class city. At that time, the leading family was the Zheng family. The family head was called Zheng Haoran. It was really pitiful. Even if it was held once every 10 years. The Zheng family also worked hard for a total of 50 times. With the Zheng family's strength, they led Cerulean Wave Giant City to become a first-class city. At that time, Li Zongjiu had already become a distinguished guest of the dynasty, a top expert. He even became Zheng Haoran's idol in his heart. Because the two of them were similar in age, but their status was worlds apart. Similar to people like Zheng Haoran, Li Zongjiu also quickly forgot about them, so he didn't think of them. Now, it could be said that the memories in the bottom layer of his mind were stimulated, and he recognized this person. Since you've already admitted your mistake, let's talk about compensation. Li Zhongjiu said indifferently with his hands behind his back. Although this young man was arrogant, he knew when to submit and when to stand tall. He had seen the Tao of poison, and after being beaten up by him, he knew to lower his head and admit his mistake. It doesn't matter if you are arrogant or proud, but don't be arrogant in front of Li Zhongjiu. Because when he was mad, you didn't even know where you were. After all, Li Zhongjiu was already past the age of being competitive. Now, his starting point was for the sake of the family. Of course, this was a matter of principle. Once there was a potential threat, they had to eliminate it immediately. Compensation. The maidservant beside Zheng Haran immediately glared at her. She actually dared to demand an exorbitant price. My young master was bullied by you and you still dare to ask for compensation. He almost rolled up his sleeves and charged at Li Zhongjiu. However, Zheng Haran glared at him. In front of the young master, she would always be a little maid and could not exceed her authority. Compensation is what I should do, what I should do. Look, 100,000 purple yuan for a third-grade origin skill. How about that? Zheng Haoran said hurriedly. His eyes were filled with endless respect. 100,000 purple yuan. A third-grade origin skill. When he heard Zheng Haoran's words, the eyes of the elder from the Park family were wide open. Li Zhongjiu had never imagined that something like this would happen. This sudden turn of events caused him to be astonished. Could it be that this guy was beaten silly by him? 100,000 purple yuan was equivalent to 10 million gold yuan. 1 purple yuan could be exchanged for 100 gold yuan. The equivalent exchange between them was also very considerable. If it was a third-grade origin skill, it would be worth around 100,000 purple yuan. He casually gave out the equivalent of 20 million gold coins as compensation. Most importantly, nothing happened to him. He only said a few words at the beginning. With the face of the Zheng family in Cerulean Wave Giant City, he should be thankful that he did not pursue the matter. Instead, he wanted compensation. Moreover, he wanted compensation. Oh my God, who is this young man? The elder from the Park family looked at Li Zhongjiu in shock. The Park family had died at the hands of such a person for no reason. At first, it was a little strange, but now it seemed that Li Zhongjiu was clearly a hidden expert. The maid looked at the young master beside her in shock. Even her personal maid could not believe it, let alone the others. In fact, the reason for Zheng Haoran's change was not that Li Zhongjiu had controlled his mind. Instead, it was the place where Zheng Haoran had become a disciple. There was a method similar to Li Zhongjiu's. The other party could also use the same green light sword finger at the same level as Li Zhongjiu. However, the other party was an expert who had been famous for a long time. That person had also taught Zheng Haoran that if he met someone who could use the green light sword finger in the future, he should not provoke them. Even the Zheng family could not afford to provoke such an expert. Zheng Haoran also firmly believed in this point. However, Zheng Haoran's talent was not enough. In such a sacred place for cultivation, he had only stayed for less than half a month before he was politely asked to leave. Even if the Zheng family interceded, it was useless. They said that Zheng Haoran's talent was not enough and that they could not teach him. They asked them to find someone better. However, the green light sword finger had left a deep impression on Zheng Haoran. He also remembered that sentence deeply. Li Zhongjiu's background did not matter. However, to be able to use this move, it must be related to that sect. Therefore, Zheng Haoran had such a big change. Of course, a disciple of such a sect would not casually reveal his identity. After thinking for a while, Zheng Haoran had already determined that Li Zhongjiu's identity was not simple. Even if his identity was simple, his potential and strength were definitely not simple. Li Zhongjiu was worthy of Zheng Haoran's flattery. It's a so-so. Since you want to compensate, with the Zheng family's strength, you should be able to get the position of the guard. Give it to my uncle, Shen Nanxiao. Li Zhongjiu thought and said. What dynasty laws? What Jianghu rules? They were not worth mentioning in the face of strength. What position of the guard? With Zhang Haoren's identity, he only needed to casually ask and he could easily get it. No problem, no problem. Even if you want to be the city lord, our Zheng family can also appoint a few. Zheng Haoren said. As long as Li Zongjiu had a request, there would be no problem. The most frightening thing was that Li Zongjiu had no desires. Then, there was no way to get in touch with such a person, unless you really matched his temperament. Li Zongjiu looked at Zheng Haoren in surprise. This kid was really interesting. No wonder he could become a figure in the future. Although he could only be said to be a figure who could barely be on the stage, just based on his mentality and eyesight, ordinary people could not compare to him. You're quite sensible. Alright, I'll forgive you today. Chapter 152. Li Zongjiu did not hold back. The Park family elder's expression turned ugly and shocked as if he had just eaten shit. At first, he had thought that the Park family had only provoked a nobody. Compared to Zheng Haoren, this was nothing. However, it seemed like the person they had provoked was even more powerful than Zheng Haoren. He. Elder brother, this five-colored elk saved my life. Please lend it to me for a day. I will definitely return it after a day. Zheng Haoren said as he rubbed his hands. Elder brother, don't worry. We will not harm the life of this five-colored elk. However, someone in the Zheng family needs this five-colored elk to condense a spiritual soul. Zheng Haoren said. Spiritual soul. This was the so-called 6 spiritual souls and 7 physical souls. It was known as a spiritual soul. It seemed like someone in the Zheng family was about to enter the Yuan monarch realm. Oh. It seems like someone in the Zheng family is about to break through to the Yuan monarch realm. Li Zongjiu said nonchalantly. Li Zongjiu's words completely shocked Zheng Haoren. Li Zongjiu was definitely an extraordinary person. Moreover, Li Zongjiu's identity might be even more terrifying than Zheng Haoren's. Ordinary people did not even know what kind of existence a Yuan monarch martialist was. There was only one adjective in their minds: powerful. Powerful. However, only those who truly understood would know that condensing a spiritual soul was the path a Yuan Zong elite had to go through to become a Yuan monarch elite. Evidently, Li Zongjiu was very clear about the process of breaking through to become a Yuan monarch. Otherwise, ordinary people would not even know what condensing a spiritual soul was. That's right, Zheng Haoren said. Zheng Haoren said. When he said this, his heart was filled with pride. It was an honor that a Yuan monarch elite was about to be born. However, this matter had been kept as a family secret until now. No one could divulge it. If Li Zongjiu continued to ask, Zheng Haoren would not say anything. Li Zongjiu obviously did not intend to get to the bottom of this matter. Li Zongjiu did not care much about a mere Yuan monarch. This five-colored elk doesn't belong to me. It belongs to my cousin. You can borrow it from her. If she's willing, you can. If she's unwilling, then forget about it. When condensing a soul, there would be a certain amplification effect if there was a spirit beast by his side. Therefore, Zheng Haoren wanted to take the five-colored elk away. Seeing that this guy was in such a hurry, it must be within these 2 days. Miss, I would like to borrow this five-colored elk. It's really urgent. I, Zheng Haoren, swear on my life that I won't hurt it. Whoever dares to harm this five-colored elk will be my enemy. Zheng Haoren said to Shen Yi. Although Shen Yi was worried, looking at these people, they seemed to be very powerful. Although Shen Yi was young, she was not a fool. Naturally, she could tell that Zheng Haoren and the others were not ordinary people. Moreover, they seemed to need Little Blossom's help. This is my dearest friend, Little When Zhang Haoren saw Shen Yi's expression, he didn't know what to do. He couldn't possibly snatch such a cute little girl away from him. Moreover, Li Zongjiu was still eyeing them covetously from the side. If Li Zongjiu made a move, none of them would be able to survive. Every day, you will have to pay me 1,000 gold coins as a rental fee. Then, Shen Yi raised a finger and said seriously. The five-colored elk was very touched at first. After all, Shen Yi treated it so well. However, it did not expect that it could not resist the temptation of money. It stomped its foot fiercely. However, the five-colored elk also knew that Shen Yi was the only companion it recognized. "Thank you, miss. Thank you very much." Shen Yi took out a bunch of green grass from her bosom. "This is the grass I grew myself. It's Little Blossom's favorite food. Remember to feed it every day." Zhang Haoren took the handful of grass from him. "Okay. Fei Yu, call for a ship," Zhang Haoren said. The maid by the side nodded. Then, she took out a signal flare and fired it into the sky. Boom! Suddenly, the signal flare shot into the sky. After a while, a black mass appeared in the sky. This terrifying scene was extremely shocking to anyone who saw it. A spaceship, huh? Not bad. Li Zongjiu looked at the huge spaceship that appeared in the sky. The spaceship was still high in the sky and had not landed. Otherwise, if it landed, the powerful pressure would be enough to crush the small Guanxi town. However, the speed of the spaceship was extremely terrifying. In a breath, it could travel several miles. Zhang Haoren scratched his head. If it was possible, Zhang Haoren would be willing to give Li Zongjiu a spaceship. However, even though he was the third young master of the Zheng family, this kind of thing couldn't be given away so easily. The Zheng family only had a total of 3 spaceships. Apart from its fast movement speed, it was also a very powerful and destructive weapon, and it could shake the skyship. They only needed 2 ships. Within 4 hours, they would be able to capture the Snow Pill sect. Even with Chu Aoran's cultivation base, he would still be turned into ashes in one move when facing the sky-shaking ship. "Everyone, thank you. See you again." Zhang Haoren took the 5-colored elk and cupped his hands together with the maid behind him. There were not many children who were so polite. Li Zongjiu thought in his heart. Especially for a disciple like Zhang Haoren, who came from such a big family, it was already an honor to be able to look at you. However, in front of Li Zongjiu, he was so obedient and polite. It was not because of Li Zongjiu's good looks, but because of Li Zongjiu's strength, which won this respect. "Take good care of Little Blossom," Shen Yi shouted towards the sky. However, the roar of the spaceships covered Shen Yi's voice. Although Little Blossom was taken away, at least Shen Yi knew that Little Blossom was safe. "Don't worry. If anything happens to Little Blossom, I will destroy the Zheng family for you." Li Zongjiu patted Shen Yi's head and said. Since it was something that Li Zongjiu guaranteed, of course, he would take responsibility. After all, Shen Yi was a member of his family. If she was wronged in the slightest, he would have to go on a killing spree to appease her. "Brother, it's called Little Blossom, not Little Blossom." "Oh." Li Zongjiu and Shen Yi walked out of the gate of the Park family. The people of the Park family had long been shocked by what had happened today. They did not even have the thought of revenge. However, what was even more shocking was that on that very night, a transfer order came from Qingyu City. One level above Guanxi Town was Qingyu City. The city lord of Qingyu City and the Lu family of Beipu City had a good relationship. Therefore, at that time, it was not difficult to transfer Lu Jianzhong to Guanxi Town to be a garrison guard. Now, Qingyu City had directly sent the order. They said that Lu Jianzhong was sick and could not take up the position of guard. At the same time, they sent Shen Nanxiao from the Shen family to take up the position. Suddenly, the entire Shen family was in an uproar. Chapter 153. Now, the Shen family had two consecutive happy events. First, it was the old master's 70th birthday. Then, Shen Nanxiao's appointment as the town's garrison guard made everyone envious. The Shen family was the #1 family in Guanxi town, but now it seemed that the entire town was going to be taken over by the Shen family. The instigator of all this was Li Zongjiu. After hearing this, he smiled. Appointing a town's garrison guard was not a big deal for someone of Zheng Haoren's status. After all, many people would give him face. Moreover, this position was used to appease people and did not have any real power. Therefore, Wang Chao did not care at all. Given the small number of soldiers in the town, even if they wanted to rebel, it would be useless. In fact, this was the case. Wang Chao had painstakingly gathered the soldiers and trained them for more than 10 years, but in the end, he was no match for an ordinary general. For example, if 2 or 3 soldiers of the Xuanwu army came, they would have no problem destroying Guanxi village. If a group of soldiers came, it wouldn't even take an hour for the village to be conquered. Speaking of oil and water, such a small amount of oil and water could hardly fill one's stomach. Therefore, only people who were not in an important position would come to such a place. While the Shen family was bustling with noise and excitement, preparing for the banquet the day after tomorrow, in the Lu family of North Pu City, which was about 700 miles away from Guanxi town, however, there were some people who were unhappy. Lu Jianzhong was the young master of the Lu family. However, Lu Jianzhong did not know how to control his strength and did not close his lower body properly, so he committed a big crime. In order to settle this matter, Lu Jianzhong was put in this relationship. Lu Jianzhong's father was the master of the Lu family. Lu Tengfei was furious. What? You want to change it? What is the meaning of Qingyu City? What do you want my son to do? Eat shit. When Lu Tengfei received the news, he smashed the mahogany table beside him with a slap. It seemed that next time, he would have to place some tables made of iron next to these big shots. Otherwise, he really couldn't afford to change the table every 3 days. Patriarch Lu, please calm down. This is the will of our city lord. I am just a messenger. In addition, according to the information we received, it seems that a few days ago, Guanxi town was invaded by bandits from Mang Mountain. The town guard of Guanxi town was seriously injured and bedridden. The person who had come was an envoy from Qingyu City. After all, the person in charge of passing on the message had a good relationship with the Lu clan. Every year, the Lu clan would send a lot of benefits to Qingyu City. Every year, there would be no shortage of benefits. Therefore, the transfer order this time did not reveal too much information. However, they still had to inform the Lu family's patriarch, which was considered giving him face. What? My son is injured. What's going on? Lu Tengfei immediately stood up, extremely excited. I've already delivered the message. Patriarch Lu, I still have important matters to attend to, so I won't disturb you any further. Oh right, Patriarch Lu, our city lord also asked me to give you a personal warning. What? Lu Tengfei was currently filled with anger. If he did not release it, it would condense in his chest and become a mental illness. Don't provoke the Shen clan of Guanxi town. The person who delivered the message cupped his hands and then turned around to leave. He did not give Lu Tengfei a chance to vent his anger. Moreover, if Lu Tengfei was angry, he would not be facing this person. Don't provoke the Shen clan. What kind of trash is the Shen clan? My northern Pu Lu clan is not afraid of the Shen clan. How could Lu Tengfei care about so much? Now that such a big incident had happened in Guanxi town, and even his son had been robbed by the bandits, how could he let it go? Wasn't the black poison old man protecting Lu Jianzhong? Could it be that the black poison old man had also met with an accident? Therefore, Lu Tengfei became angry when he thought of this. There must be something fishy about this. I'd like to see what the Shen clan is up to. Lu Tengfei did not hesitate and immediately gathered his men. Lu Biao, immediately bring your men to the carriage and prepare a fast horse. I want to reach the Shen clan within a day. I want to catch them off guard. Fuck. Lu Tengfei cursed. Lu Biao was Lu Tengfei's personal bodyguard. After receiving the order, he immediately went to carry it out. What happened to our Jianzhong? Is he alright? A well-dressed woman with a round figure came out. She seemed to have heard some news about Lu Jianzhong, but she did not hear it clearly. She hurried over and saw Lu Tengfei and the others were already ready to go. It seemed like they were going to war. Madam, you rest in the house. I'm going to Guanxi town. Lu Tengfei's style of doing things was very fiery. Now that Lu Jianzhong had gotten into trouble, he was dismissed from his position and was injured by these bandits. Lu Tengfei would not believe that there was no connection between these two events. Then, the Lu clan's men also galloped toward Guanxi town. The horses galloped. Dust flew everywhere. When the day of the birthday banquet arrived, it was also drizzling. The road was clear after being washed by the rain. Early in the morning, a team of carriages was rushing over from afar. They ate a lot of dust on the way, but when they reached the gate, they were washed clean by the rain. Shen Nanxiao and the others were already waiting at the gate. The person who came was none other than Li Tianqing. A few days ago, Li Tianqing came with a team to celebrate Old Master Shen Chuanxiu's birthday. Now, the birthday banquet was held in the Shen clan's courtyard. Originally, they did not want to make a fuss and wanted to keep everything simple. However, Shen Nanxiao had become the new garrison lord with a piece of paper. This made everyone feel as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Not only did they have to do it, but they also had to do it well. At the same time, the entire Shen clan's courtyard was flooded with people who came to present their congratulatory gifts. Anyone with a reputation came to attend the birthday banquet. Some of the people who didn't want to come prepared their congratulatory gifts when they heard that Shen Nanxiao had been appointed as the new guardian. Xiangji Road Steward Ma presents a 100-year-old ginseng and a 100-year-old Ganoderma. East Wind Alley's Liang Family Rice Shop presents 5 kilograms of premium linoleum rice and 2 pairs of ivory. The housekeeper, who was standing at the gate, kept shouting into the house, reporting the congratulatory gifts in his hands. These people could not have come empty-handed. Even if they had brought gifts, they would not have dared to bring simple gifts. If the gifts they brought were better than the ones they brought, they would be more respected. Even the people of the Shen clan would pay more attention to them. Some people smiled happily, while others smiled awkwardly. If the gifts they brought were not good enough, they would lose face. Sitting there, they felt as if they were sitting on pins and needles. Some of them hurriedly went back halfway to bring more generous gifts. This was really strange. Chapter 154. When Li Zongjiu heard that Li Tianqing had arrived, he went out to greet him. He looked travel-worn and didn't seem to encounter any danger along the way. After all, Li Tianqing went out personally, and there were a lot of Yuan master experts around him. If they really encountered someone, they wouldn't dare to be too arrogant. Although Wuxia City's Li family's reputation wasn't that great, it wasn't too dangerous along the way. If it was some dangerous place, then Li Tianqing and the others would have to be careful and keep a low profile. When they came out, they saw Li Tianqing sitting in front of Shen Chuanxiu like an obedient child, obediently listening to Shen Chuanxiu's lecture. Of course, it was more of an exchange and sharing of things. After all, Li Tianqing was now a person with status, not the wanderer in rags who came here to ask for a drink. Although he was called a wanderer, he was more like a refugee. "How's your Li family recently?" Shen Chuanxiu asked. "Not bad, not bad." Li Tianqing quickly nodded and said. Now, the Li family was like the sun in the sky in Wuxia City, but Li Tianqing didn't become arrogant because of it. It should be known that there were still many internal and external troubles that had not been solved. He had just taken over the Xianyuan ore. It could be said that the surrounding mountains were also eyeing covetously. Moreover, the people in the Flying Cloud City were like hungry wolves. Although they didn't dare to attack now, they wouldn't hesitate to rush up and tear you to shreds as soon as they found out about your situation. Fortunately, the Li family was internally united. Otherwise, the family would have been directly disbanded. Of course, Li Tianqing was most concerned about it. It was the situation in northern Medicine City. Wang Lu had become an alchemy porter. He did his best in the Li family in the hope that one day he could be reborn and regain his freedom. With Wang Lu's ability, there was no way he could break free from the Li family. Therefore, Wang Lu was also very self-aware. However, the threat of the Northern Medicine Alliance had not been eliminated. After the incident with the invitation card, Li Tianqing captured Wang Lu and interrogated him. Only then did he find some information. At the same time, he also sent people to Northern Medicine City to keep watch. He wanted to see what the situation was with the Northern Medicine Alliance in Northern Medicine City. However, based on the current situation, it seemed that they wouldn't be able to buy too much time. Once the time was up, the Li family would face a true catastrophe. The newly appointed leader of the Northern Medicine Alliance had yet to stabilize the situation within the alliance. Once he gained power, he would definitely eliminate the Li family of Wuxia City. Leaving no room for future troubles was their style. Therefore, Li Tianqing had sent many people to investigate the situation of the Northern Medicine Alliance. Once the situation was critical, they had to be prepared to welcome the arrival of a catastrophe. I asked Li Zongjiu to help me organize the banquet, but I don't know where he went. You don't say. If it weren't for Zongjiu, I would probably be dead now. Shen Chuanqiu said. He was very satisfied with this little grandson of his. As he spoke, he coughed a few times in excitement. Father, are you okay? Why are you coughing so badly recently? Shen Xinxiao quickly stepped forward and patted Shen Chuanqiu's back. Sigh, I'm getting old. It's just these things. I've already gotten over it. Originally, I was going to give the position of the head of the family to Nanxiao, but now that Nanxiao has become the guardian, I can only give the position to Xinxiao. Father, what nonsense are you talking about? Shen Xinxiao suddenly said. For small families like this, they would usually wait until the older generation passed away before handing over the position of power. This was the only way to ensure the survival of the family. The experience of the elders was something that the later generations could learn from. How can I not know my own situation? Shen Chuanqiu said with a long sigh. At this moment, Li Zongjiu stepped forward. Grandfather, this situation should be caused by the outbreak of the Thunderblood spider's poison. Li Zongjiu came in front of Shen Chuanqiu. You still know how to show up. Why don't you go and help out? You only know how to slack off. Li Tianqing stood up and said when he saw Li Zongjiu. Shut up and move aside. Zongjiu, what did you just say? Shen Xinxiao suddenly shouted. This man liked to prove his existence, but it was useless against Shen Xinxiao. He was directly pushed aside by Shen Xinxiao. Its eyes stared straight at Li Zongjiu. Shen Chuanqiu, who was standing at the side, was also extremely shocked. You, how did you know, Thunderblood spider? This was a vicious poisonous creature that Shen Chuanqiu had hunted a few years ago. At that time, it was an accident. When the hunting team of the family entered the forest to hunt, they accidentally entered the nest of the Thunderblood spider. In order to cover the retreat of the family, Shen Chuanqiu fought the Thunderblood spider alone. This Thunderblood spider was considered a top existence among the first-grade meta beasts. It even had a strong poison. At that time, Shen Chuanqiu killed the Thunderblood spider, but at the last moment, the poison of the Thunderblood spider splashed on his body. Fortunately, it was not much. With the strong vitality of his youth, he was able to suppress the poison through the interaction of some medicinal herbs. After so many years, he thought that the poison was about to dissipate. But now, it suddenly erupted. The outbreak of the poison was equivalent to a death clock. Now that he was already so old, he did not have the energy to resist such poison. Moreover, the condition of his body was deteriorating. The day of his death was not far away. Although it has been lurking in the body for a long time and has mutated, it is not difficult to detoxify it. I need to find another medicinal herb to refine a detoxification pill for grandfather. Li Zongjiu said. Really? What do you need? Shen Xinxiao quickly asked. However, Shen Chuanxiu seemed to have thought of something and looked at Li Zongjiu. Wait, you really know how to refine pills? The memory of Li Zongjiu feeding him poison was still vivid in his mind. If not for his tough life, he would have died long ago. Zongjiu's alchemy skills have improved a lot recently. Li Tianqing said without changing his expression. If you want to refine pills, you will need the Thunderblood Spider's poison sac or the meta crystal in the Thunderblood Spider King's body. Li Zongjiu said. The Thunderblood Spider King was equivalent to a second-grade meta beast. It was equivalent to a meta master. Hiss. The Thunderblood Spider King is equivalent to a second-grade meta beast. Where can you get it? It must be priceless. Shen Chuanxiu shook his head. It is not worth it for an old man like me. Chapter 155. Shen Chuanxiu was naturally distressed. However, Shen Xinxiao only said one sentence. Don't worry. Leave this matter to Tianqing. Li Tianqing exclaimed, but his chest was quickly hammered by Shen Xinxiao. He immediately came to his senses and nodded repeatedly. Yes. Don't worry, father. Leave this matter to me. Li Zongjiu's grandfather passed away early. It was said that he suffered from qi deviation when he was cultivating. He had been castrated since he was very young. Li Tianqing was also the head of the family when he was young. At that time, the Li family was on the verge of collapse. If not for Li Tianqing's efforts, the family might not have been able to survive. Congratulatory gift. Do you want my saber or not? Get out of my way. Several members of the Shen family were happily chatting. Shen Nanxiao and the others were also chatting in twos and threes. Most of the people had already arrived. However, Chenha had not arrived yet, so the conversation did not start. Just as these people were trying their best to build a good relationship with the Shen family. However, they heard such a rude voice. The owner of the voice was a little unfamiliar. They seemed to have never heard of such a person before. Immediately, they frowned. Who is this person? How dare he be so arrogant? That's right. He actually dares to cause trouble at this time. It seems like he doesn't want to live anymore. The quarrel at the door continued. But soon, with a bang, the head butler of the Shen family was sent flying with a kick and fell to the ground. Then, a group of people with long sabers at their waists could be seen entering the door in a single file and standing on both sides. These people's faces were ferocious, but at the same time, the word arrogance was clearly written on their faces. They were extremely arrogant. It seemed that in their eyes, these people were just low-class people. After the 2 rows of guards had arrived and stood in position, a luxuriously dressed old man walked in. He looked young and his face was glowing. But in fact, he was at least 60 or 70 years old. However, due to the fact that he cultivated yuan power, his physique appeared to be extremely healthy. When he walked in, he gave off an overbearing feeling. I'm Shen Nanxiao of the Shen clan. How did my Shen clan offend you? Why are you attacking us? Shen Nanxiao immediately stepped forward and said. His eyes were filled with a radiance and spirit that would not tolerate humiliation. Now that Shen Nanxiao was the eldest son of the family, he was also the guard of Guanxi town. With a different status, he naturally had different responsibilities. Now that something had happened, of course he would be the first to step forward. Li Tianqing also walked up with him. Something had happened to his wife's family, and the other party was obviously here to cause trouble. Of course, he had to support them well. Li Tianqing moved, and Li Gui and the others, who were in charge of guarding in secret, followed behind him. North Pu City. The Lu family. Beipu City. Although the distance wasn't very far, it wasn't very close either. They had more or less heard about it. Among the third-grade cities, North Puff City was considered to be one of the more outstanding ones. In fact, their combined strength was almost on par with that of Northern Medicine City. As for the Lu family, this name sounded familiar, but they couldn't recall it at the moment. You must be the new guard. You're quite capable. Hand over Lu Jianzhong, otherwise, I'll turn today's birthday banquet into a funeral banquet. Lu Tengfei shouted sternly. With Lu Tengfei's strength and influence, these good-for-nothings in front of him were nothing in his eyes. These people could be easily dealt with. There was no way they could pose a threat. Therefore, when Lu Tengfei arrived here, he acted as if he was a natural king, and the people around him all obeyed his orders. If anyone disobeyed, he would directly kill them as a punishment. How dare a family from such a small place stir up trouble in front of the Lu family? Lu Tengfei was furious when he thought of the words of the Qingyu city governor. What did he mean? The Lu family of North Pu City, can't even deal with a family from a small county? Family head Lu, please be more polite. This is Guanxi town, not your North Pu City. Shen Nanxiao suddenly said in a deep voice. His tone was extremely unfriendly. If it weren't for the fact that the other party wasn't someone to be trifled with, Shen Nanxiao would have already ordered the people in front of him to be captured and beaten up. Even his limbs would be chopped off. However, since the other party said so, Shen Nanxiao had to be serious. You're quite arrogant. Break his legs for me. Lu Tengfei said coldly. Immediately, a person stepped forward and rushed towards Shen Nanxiao. Shen Nanxiao was naturally not afraid. In front of so many people, he couldn't retreat. If he retreated, wouldn't he be ridiculed by others? However, Li Tianqing took the lead and stood in front of Shen Nanxiao. Fire Lion Palm. Both of his hands flew up and down. Finally, the power of this palm was formed. Then, it suddenly slammed forward. Boom! The aura around Li Tianqing's body exploded, forming a terrifying pressure. Even the attacker was shocked. Li Tianqing's attack caught him off guard. He only had enough time to raise his yuan power to block in front of him. Bang! Li Tianqing's current yuan li had officially entered the 7th grade of the yuan master realm. It was exactly the same as Li Zongjiu's realm. Li Zongjiu's turtle origin spirit gathering pill and the might of the sky blazing lion king art were the only things that could make such a joke. Perhaps in less than a year, he would be able to reach the yuan general realm. Li Tianqing's attack surprised Lu Tengfei a little. The person who Lu Tengfei sent out was directly sent flying back. When he fell to the ground, his entire arm was charred black. This arm was considered to be crippled. Li Tianqing crippled one of his guards with one move. A cold light flashed in Lu Tengfei's eyes. I didn't expect this small Guanxi town to have such an expert. You're not from Guanxi town, right? Lu Tengfei said coldly to Li Tianqing. Men, close the door. Since you've come to my father-in-law's house to behave atrociously, don't think about leaving in one piece. Li Tianqing said indifferently. The Li family's guards rushed out from all directions. Originally, Li Zongjiu only brought a small team of 12 people, but now that Li Tianqing came, the scene couldn't be small, and more than 60 people came. There were more than 100 people, and each of them had a strong aura as they stared at the person in front of them. Although the Lu family's guards' aura was not weak, there were too few of them. They were suppressed by the aura of the Li family's guard. The door was slammed shut with a loud bang. His aura soared by 3 points. This trick was also learned from Li Zongjiu. If someone came to make trouble, he would close the door without saying anything. That would be enough to scare them. Chapter 156. From the moment Li Tianqing made his move, he could feel that Li Tianqing's strength wasn't simple. After all, the elemental formula he cultivated was a grade 6-1. The gap between the two realms wasn't something an ordinary person could understand. Therefore, when Li Tianqing made his move, Lu Tengfei also felt a trace of threat. However, in Lu Tengfei's opinion, this little bit of strength was not enough to threaten him. The Lu family had fought their way out of North Pu City for many years. Lu Tengfei had seen all kinds of situations to be able to achieve his current status. How could a mere few hundred people be enough to frighten him? Very good. I don't know where these cats and dogs came from, but you dare to clamor with your grandfather. See if I don't cripple you today. Lu Tengfei suddenly growled. However, with Li Tianqing in front of him, the aura released from Lu Tengfei's body didn't affect these people at all. Li Zongjiu's gaze suddenly locked onto a person behind Lu Tengfei. This person was dressed simply and looked like an ordinary guard. However, there was something wrong with his eyes. There was only an empty killing intent in his eyes. Once this person was awakened, it would be like awakening a giant killing beast. Roar! The guard suddenly let out a low roar and opened his eyes. He pulled out the steel blade in his hand, and a violent wave of air blasted towards Li Tianqing. In the face of this move, there was no need for Li Tianqing to make a move personally. As a guard of the Li family, Li Gui had already raised his blade and attacked. However, in the face of this blade's wave of air, Li Gui also slashed out with his saber, but he heard a loud bang. Li Gui's figure flew out, and the long saber in his hand was broken into two. Bang! Li Gui's body landed on the ground with a bloody wound on his chest. Quick, stop his bleeding. Shen Nanxiao saw this and quickly shouted. Immediately, a professional doctor from the Shen family came out and sprinkled medicinal powder on Li Gui's body. A cold light flashed in Li Tianqing's eyes. This person's blade technique was so sharp. If it was a little more powerful, he might have directly killed this person. Fortunately, Li Gui was wearing a decent inner armor. This was also what Li Gui had saved from his frugality. It directly helped Li Gui to save his life. You're courting death. Li Tianqing shouted angrily. The heavenly blaze Lion King art in his body had been activated to the extreme. Boom! A violent roar erupted from Li Tianqing's body. However, just as Li Tianqing was about to make a move, he saw Lu Tengfei slamming his palm towards Li Tianqing. Go, capture that Shen Nanxiao. This time, Lu Tengfei came to settle accounts with someone. Since he was here to settle accounts, he naturally had to find the culprit, which was Shen Nanxiao. As for other matters, he would talk about it later. Immediately, Lu Tengfei charged towards Li Tianqing with the strength of a 9th-grade Yuan master. Li Tianqing was naturally fearless. Boom! The two of them suddenly exchanged a palm strike. In the blink of an eye, waves of air surged. Li Tianqing took 3 steps back before he managed to neutralize his opponent's force. However, Li Tianqing did not fall into a disadvantageous position. What? Lu Tengfei originally thought that his palm strike would be enough to send Li Tianqing flying. However, it seemed that it was still not enough. Li Tianqing's internal force was like a solid wall that was simply impossible to move. This was the cultivation of an ordinary person, and the energy in their body would not be so condensed. Therefore, Lu Tengfei instantly realized that the level of the Yuan technique that Li Tianqing cultivated was not low. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to fight so tenaciously against someone who was 2 grades lower than him. Kill! The beast-like guard at the beginning also shouted loudly. The guards behind him drew their swords one after another and formed a sharp stream of swords that charged towards Shen Nanxiao. Form the formation. Take them down. Gu Man roared and then took the lead to rush out, wanting to stop the ferocious guard. However, the ferocious guard once again slashed out with his long saber. The sharp saber chi swept towards Gu Man's head as fast as lightning. Although Gu Man was brave and ferocious, he knew that if he rushed up now, this saber would be enough to chop off his head. Gu Man tilted his body and the saber chi swept past his ear, causing his ears to ring. However, the Li family's guards were also entangled with the Lu family's guards. It was basically 5 against 1. The Lu family's guards were basically only able to withstand 1 or 2 attacks. If there were more, they would not be able to hold on. It was only a matter of time before they were defeated. Moreover, the Li family's guards did not rush forward recklessly. It was as if they had already rehearsed this. They formed groups of a few people and moved in an orderly manner. If they encountered a strong opponent, then 3 people would defend and 2 people would attack. If they encountered an easy opponent, then 2 people would defend and 3 people would attack. Fortunately, the courtyard was big enough. Close to 100 people were not able to fight in front of the banquet table. Instead, they were all in front of the forest. Many flower beds and trees were cut down by the chaotic saber chi. The most ferocious guard suddenly broke out of the encirclement. He consecutively knocked down 3 Li family's guards and dodged the bows and arrows of the Shen family's hunters. He suddenly leaped toward Shen Nanxiao and raised the saber in his hand above his head. At this moment, even if Shen Nanxiao were to raise a Vajra shield, it would probably be chopped into pieces. Damn it! Shen Nanxiao faced this saber. He was almost unable to move because of the opponent's aura. He could not move at all. After all, Shen Nanxiao was only an 8th grade Yuan realm expert. He had not even reached the realm of Yuan Master. Facing the killing intent of this guard that was comparable to a 6th grade Yuan Master. How could he dodge it? However, Shen Nanxiao was unable to move at all. In the eyes of others, Shen Nanxiao was already calm and composed. He was not afraid in the face of danger. In terms of aura, he did not lose to the opponent at all. The Lu family's guard descended from the sky and the saber in his hands suddenly fell. There was a loud boom. The saber chi swept across. The saber chi, which was hundreds of feet wide, directly slashed into the ground with a loud bang. The ground immediately exploded into countless fragments. Large beads of sweat dripped down Shen Nanxiao's forehead. Above his forehead was facing the tip of the saber. If it fell a little bit more, it would be enough to cut open his scalp. However, even so, the aura in front of him made Shen Nanxiao's scalp go numb. You brat, why didn't you make a move earlier? Shen Nanxiao wanted to curse out loud. This nephew of his, why did he have to wait until now to act? Was he trying to act cool? Why didn't he change the time and place to act cool? Why did he have to make a move at this time? The Lu family's guard also looked at the person in front of him. He muttered to himself, as if he was extremely shocked. Li Zongjiu's 2 fingers easily caught the opponent's saber that was chopping down. The saber was sharp, but in Li Zongjiu's hands, it was like a piece of paper. He did not even put it in his eyes. Mad blood goo? After observing at such a close distance, Li Zongjiu discovered the uniqueness of this person's body. He was actually implanted with the mad blood goo. The effect of the mad blood goo was similar to the effect of Li Zongjiu's mad blood guide. However, the mad blood goo was a kind of insect refined from blood. Once it was implanted into the body, the blood essence in the body would be stimulated. This would achieve the effect of overdrawing the body's potential. This was an extremely stupid act of exhaustion. However, for these ordinary guards, it could provide them with powerful strength. When used at a critical moment, it could have the effect of turning the situation around. Roar! The guard, who was poisoned by the mad blood goo, roared at Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu frowned. Scram! The moment he released his hand, he punched the guard's face. Bang! The guard was directly sent flying. Although he did not explode, the front half of his skull was directly shattered. It was twisted into a lump of flesh and blood. From the flesh and blood, a red insect that looked like a cockroach crawled out. It was at least half the size of a palm. When the surrounding people saw this, they were all shocked. They felt extremely disgusted and scared. They did not expect the Lu family to have such evil means. The means of the poison sect of the southern border. When Li Zongjiu saw this scene, he suddenly muttered in his heart. A memory also surged into his mind. The poison sect of the southern border was a disaster in the Jianghu. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu could be said to be a bystander. The poison sect of the southern border used goo poison everywhere and controlled many families and forces in the southern border. It once caused the southern border of the dynasty to fall into a period of darkness. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu was indifferent. Although there was a lot of friction with the poison sect of the southern border, he did not become enemies with them. Now, when he thought of the poison sect of the southern border's conquest, the Wuxia city in the southern border and the snow elixir sect in the southern border would be invaded and devoured. The Lu family was an example. Chapter 157. Li Zongjiu did not hold back since it was a trick of the poison sect of the southern region. He stomped the bug to death with his foot. Although there was no conflict with the poison sect of the southern region now, the poison sect of the southern region would definitely take over the entire southern region in the future. Anyone who stood in their way would have to be eradicated. Hence, they would have to face each other sooner or later. Even if you did not provoke others, it did not mean that others would not provoke you. This was the embodiment of reality and reality. Damn it! Lu Tengfei saw that the ferocious guard had his head blown off by Li Zongjiu. Obviously, Li Zongjiu's strength was even more terrifying. There were so many experts hidden in this small Guanxi town. It was not easy to provoke them. They came in a hurry this time. Obviously, they were not well prepared and did not have many experts with them. Lu Tengfei was ready to run when he saw the situation. Since he was no match for the other party, it was better to retreat quickly. Otherwise, he would not be able to leave later on. Lu Tengfei immediately threw out a palm. Yuan energy surged, but Lin Fan still held back and did not use his full strength in this palm strike. Li Tianqing did not dare to be careless. He went all out and threw out a fire lion palm. The Yuan energy around him formed a terrifying aura and blasted towards Lu Tengfei. Bang! The two people's auras collided, instantly forming a terrifying force. Li Tianqing immediately realized that Lu Tengfei's force was not enough to hurt him. After throwing out this move, Lu Tengfei quickly retreated to the back and borrowed the force to escape. Go to hell! Lu Tengfei's figure rose into the air. At the same time, he took out a bamboo tube and threw it down. Poisonous bugs. Countless poisonous bugs rushed out of the bamboo tube and swooped down towards the people below. The toxicity of these poisonous bugs was unknown, but the people below were all guests. If anything happened to them, it would be a bad omen. The Shen family would be humiliated. Hence, Li Tianqing and Li Zongjiu who wanted to chase after the bugs. The two of them also directly attacked these poisonous bugs. Fire elemental energy swept out like a huge net. These poisonous insects were instantly burned to ashes by the fire elemental energy. Li Zongjiu also released the elemental energy in his body. After the Yuan power left his body, it actually transformed into numerous glowing spots and accurately killed these poisonous insects. This release was much more economical and efficient than Li Tianqing's fire net. From this, it could be seen that Li Zongjiu's control of Yuan power was far superior to Li Tianqing's. Li Zongjiu was so young, but his strength was no less than Li Tianqing's. The aura he exuded was just as powerful. In some aspects, he was even more experienced than Li Tianqing. Some people couldn't help but feel envious. A tiger father would not beget a dog son. Just wait for your Shen family to be annihilated. And the people of Guanxi town, I want your Guanxi town to be in chaos. Lu Tingfei's voice, which was already flying in the sky, came from afar. This warning made everyone present feel uneasy. The Lu family was obviously going to vent their anger on them because of the Shen family. Perhaps they would also be implicated. Li Zongjiu was about to give chase, but he stopped when he was about to move. Above the sky, a powerful aura suddenly swept out. A huge golden palm print fell from the sky. Bang! A sky shaker ship slowly emerged from the clouds. Lu Tingfei's defense was first destroyed by the palm, then he was directly hit by the sky shaker ship. From the sky, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body fell from the sky. However, the sky shaker ship shot out a few more flying ropes. Bang! Chi! The steel fork that flew out directly penetrated Lu Tingfei's shoulder and thigh, hanging him up. What is that? The family head seems to have been stabbed to death. This ship can actually fly in the sky. Look, that's the flag of the Zheng family. The Zheng family. In the entire Dingquan province, there were many members of the Zheng family. However, there was only one family in Dingquan province that could have such a big lineup. The Zheng family of Cerulean Wave Giant City. The wealth and power of the Zheng family occupied half of Cerulean Wave Giant City. It could be said that they shared the world with the dynasty. To be able to have such power, they were almost like emperors in these ordinary towns. The sky shaker ship had the symbol of the Zheng family. Lu Tingfei, who was hanging in the sky, also saw the symbol. When he saw the symbol, his mind combined it with the words of the messenger from Qingzhou City. He gradually understood that he should not have done this. Who would have thought that he would be able to find someone related to the Zheng family in this rural corner? He should not have come to Guanxi town. Now, it seemed that his son should be dead. Otherwise, such a situation would not have happened. This was the Zheng family's plan. They just did not expect it. This was indeed an extremely painful thing. It was absolutely unbelievable that such a thing would happen to him. Boom! Boom! 3 figures fell from the sky shaker ship. The guards of the Lu family also stopped resisting. They originally wanted to escape. However, when they found that the door was closed and they were in a state of death, they knew that they would not be able to pass today. Therefore, one by one, they raised their hands and surrendered. Even if they did not surrender, they would have been killed by the Li family guards. Zheng Haoren and his maid. Beside them was an old man who looked to be in his prime. At the same time, he reached out his hand and caught Lu Tingfei. With a loud bang, Lu Tingfei fell to the ground. In addition to these 3 people, there was also the 5-colored elk that fell from the sky. Flowery. When Shani saw her Flowery, she rushed out without caring about the danger. Shenyi's mother wanted to pull her back, but it was too late. She saw Shenyi rush out. Boom! The 5-colored elk landed on the ground and pounced into Shenyi's arms. They had been separated for almost 2 days. For both of them, it was extremely long. When the old man who came with Zheng Haoren saw the 5-colored elk being so intimate with Shenyi, a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. The 5-colored elk's intelligence was the highest among all the spirit beasts. It was also because of this that the Zheng family's patriarch succeeded in breaking through. However, this was a secret that was not announced to the outside world. As a trump card, whether or not he succeeded in breaking through was not something that outsiders would know. These things were all left to the Zheng family for outsiders to guess. Zheng family's Zheng Haoren has come to congratulate Old Master Shen on his 70th birthday. Zheng Haoren cleared his throat and ignored the extremely focused gazes around him. He stepped forward and cupped his hands. This time, I brought a congratulatory gift. An 8-directional suppressing origin stone, a 7-star flame room, a 6-revolution steel blade. 500 purple origin stones, several carriages of 3rd-grade spirit herbs. The maid beside him presented a storage ring in her hand. When they heard the first few items, the rich and powerful of Guanxi town were already stunned. 8-directional suppressing origin stone. 1 stone suppressing 8 directions. It was the masterpiece of an origin inscription master. An origin inscription was carved on a spirit stone that contained spirit energy. It was then displayed in the family to ensure that the family's luck would last forever. As for the 7-star flame room, it was the top weapon pavilion in Dingquan province. A 6-revolution steel blade worth no less than 1 million. It was comparable to an earth-grade divine weapon. Chapter 158. Apart from that, there were also a lot of valuable items. In Guanxi town, one would never be able to spend all that money in a lifetime. However, that was not the most important thing. Money was not something that could last for long. Although he suddenly had a large fortune, it could be squandered in a short period of time. The most important thing was that even the Zheng family had come to congratulate him. What kind of ability did a landlord who lived in such a remote village have to have the Zheng family come all the way here to congratulate him? It was simply unimaginable. In the future, within 1,000 miles of Guanxi town, no one would dare to provoke the Shen family in Guanxi town. I'm the city lord of Qingzhou City. I'm here to congratulate the Shen family on your birthday. At this moment, the old man at the side finally stood up and stated his identity and purpose. When they heard the old man's identity, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Even the city lord of Qingzhou City was here. The nature of the situation was even more different. However, after thinking about it, since the Zheng family of Cerulean Wave Giant City was here, the city lord of Qingzhou City was nothing. The city lord of Qingzhou City was also here to congratulate Shen Nanxiao on his birthday. At the same time, he also officially announced that Shen Nanxiao had become the garrison guard of Guanxi town. The people of the Lu family trespassed on private property and deserve to die. We'll leave them to garrison guard Shen to deal with. However, you have to see if there's anything missing in the house. The city lord of Qingzhou City said. Lu Tengfei was seriously injured. At this moment, he looked at the city lord of Qingzhou City in shock and disbelief. Firstly, he did not expect the Shen family to be related to the Zheng family of Cerulean Wave Giant City. Secondly, the person who killed him was actually the city lord of Qingzhou City. During this process, the city lord of Qingzhou City did not even look at Lu Tengfei. It was as if Lu Tengfei was just a person who was about to die. The city lord of Qingzhou City did not care about the insignificant Lu family. He had already warned Lu Tengfei, but Lu Tengfei refused to listen. This made the city lord of Qingzhou City feel guilty. Lu Tengfei was stupid, so he could not blame anyone else. Take him away. Shen Nanxiao said. He did not kill Lu Tengfei right away. He had just taken office. However, today was a joyous occasion for the Shen family. If he killed too many people, it would spoil the mood. Not only were the heavily injured Lu Tengfei taken away, but the Lu family guards were also tied up one by one and taken away. This must be Mr. Li Zongjiu. I've heard a lot about you. The city lord of Qingzhou City came before Li Zongjiu and cupped his hands as he spoke. You're exaggerating. Li Zongjiu clasped his hands together. Qingzhou City frowned. This Li Zongjiu didn't seem to know how to be polite. However, he didn't say anything for Zheng Haren's sake. However, he couldn't help but have some opinions in his heart. This Li Zongjiu looked ordinary, but his temper was quite bad. It was unknown what kind of method she had used to confuse Zheng Haren. Li Zongjiu had Zheng Haren behind him. In that case, Li Zongjiu would be able to do whatever he wanted within the jurisdiction of Qingzhou City. This poisonous bug was brought in by the poison sect of southern Xinjiang. You'd better be careful. Li Zhongjiu pointed at the poisonous bug that he had trampled to death. At this moment, Zheng Haoran and the city lord of Qingzhou city couldn't help but go forward to take a look. That guard's death was rather tragic. Coupled with the fact that there was a venomous bug in front of them, they couldn't help but feel goosebumps all over their bodies. It was indeed rather disgusting. What exactly were these people trying to do? How could they be so cruel to themselves? Poison sect of southern Xinjiang. What's that? The city lord of Qingzhou city couldn't help but be puzzled. Even with his identity and status, he didn't know about the existence of the poison sect of southern Xinjiang. After pondering for a while, Zheng Haoran suddenly widened his eyes in shock. Poison sect of southern Xinjiang. Could it be that there's a tribe in the extinct mountain range? Zheng Haoran couldn't help but be surprised. The extinct mountain range was an extremely dangerous place. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to set foot in such a place. However, in such a mountain range, there was a unique paradise. There were mysterious tribes and clans in it. After so many years, the outside world only knew about the tribes in the extinct mountain range. They only knew about them. They called themselves the Southern Xinjiang tribe. Since it was the poison sect of southern Xinjiang, it must be related to the Southern Xinjiang tribe. However, this matter needed to be properly investigated. However, to be able to invade the land of the Liu family, the poison sect of southern Xinjiang must have targeted other places. Obviously, it would not be easy to find out who they were. That's right. It's the Southern Xinjiang tribe. In the future, they will definitely become a big problem. We must take precautions in Kun province. Li Zhongjiu said. He had already revealed so much. If these people didn't listen, Li Zhongjiu couldn't do anything. It was up to them whether they listened or not. Anyway, he had already told them. My Zheng family will definitely investigate this matter with all our might. Zheng Haoran said with a solemn face. However, the city governor of Qingzhou city didn't care at all. How many people were there in the southern Xinjiang tribe? They were hiding in the extinct mountain range. Whether they could survive was already a problem. Now, they even wanted to invade Kun province. What a joke. Zheng Haoran didn't know what was wrong with him. He usually looked very smart. Why did he seem like a fool in front of Li Zhongjiu? Of course, he didn't dare to say it out loud. He just kept it in his heart. The Shen family also tidied up the garden. The only one who was seriously injured in this battle was Li Gui. Li Gui was unlucky. Who knew that the other party would explode with such a terrifying power that Li Gui couldn't defend himself in time? That was why he was hit. The Zheng family didn't stay for long. After congratulating them, they left directly. It didn't matter whether the person was there or not. As long as the gift was there, it proved their intention. Although it was a pity, if the Zheng family was there, it would definitely make the Shen family uncomfortable. Shen Chuanxiu looked at the lively scene in front of him. It seemed that the fierce battle just now didn't affect the mood of these people. On the contrary, they all saw clearly and thought clearly. In the future, the Shen family couldn't be provoked. Even the Zheng family of Jade Wave Giant City had connections here, which was even more inconceivable. They were really shocked. Goblet after goblet of wine was drunk until the sky turned dark. Shen Chuanxiu's face was flushed red. This birthday banquet was quite impressive. He didn't expect that the Shen family would go from a prisoner to such a popular position in just a few days. In fact, they had already become the sole rulers of Guanxi town. Li Tianqing also drank a lot of wine. As a family of the Luoxia city, after the display of strength just now, these people respected the Qin family even more. Li Tianqing didn't refuse the people who came to greet him. Basically, he didn't refuse anyone. However, Li Zhongjiu didn't drink to his heart's content. It wasn't that Li Zhongjie didn't like it. In his previous life, the things that accompanied Li Zhongjie the most were wine and fire. After becoming famous, no one dared to provoke Li Zhongjie. He didn't even need to kill people personally. Every day, he only needed to make pills and drink wine. Drinking wine was enough for him. However, what Li Zhongjie was drinking were all century-old wines. Each jar was more precious than the previous one. Ordinary wines like this were nothing to him. If he had the time, he might as well use it to cultivate. Guanxi town was bustling with activity. Naturally, some people didn't like the Shen family's dominance, but there was nothing they could do. After all, the Shen family's strength was too terrifying. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that they were like the sun in the sky. However, in North Puff City, a rich and powerful family's courtyard looked like it had been abandoned for a long time. Spider webs were everywhere. Only a trace of fire was lit in the basement. In one of the rooms, there seemed to be something dark surging. The candlelight on the table flickered slightly. Suddenly, the black mass of things peeled off from both sides. It turned out to be black insects all over the place. A human face appeared on the peeled area. The whole body was covered by the black insects. There was no discomfort when the insect crawled. If an ordinary person saw such a scene, he would have fainted from fright. The blood poison bug I planted was actually killed by someone. Whoever dares to kill my insects is an enemy of me, Kachasu. Go, my sons. Find him for me. You must find him. As soon as he finished speaking, the poisonous insects on his body scattered like flowers. Then, he suddenly dashed in all directions at high speed. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.